New York, Bernie and Sid in the morning. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Round, round, get around, I get around. Yeah, get around, round, round, I get around. I get around, round, round, I get around. 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 I'm getting bug driving up and down the same.
That's appropriate for the end of summer. The Beach Boys. Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show. Heard everywhere on that 77 WABC app. Download that, folks. You want it straight? You want it raw? You get it right here on the Bernie and Sid Show. And we're also heard simulcast out on Eastern Long Island, the News Talk 107.1 FM, and also live streamed on, WABCRadio.com, where Gabriella is at the controls right now, and it's nice to see you, folks. It's nice to see you. You know what I mean? Listen, today is like, for me anyway, especially, I was off the last week. Funny how nothing happens on the last week of summer. It's a very, very, very slow news week, huh? Things slow down, and you get to kick back a little bit. Not so much. But it's like the first day of school. It's a terrible, terrible day. But then again, everybody else, anybody within earshot of me right now, on the radio at least, I don't know about the app. You could be out in Wyoming right now just chilling in your cabin, but somebody's mic is open in there. But either way, it is one of those days. But what my point is that we're all in it together, folks. We're all in it together. This is like the first day of school. We're all in it. We've been through it before. And I will say this as well. This is also some people coming back from a 3-day weekend. It's Tuesday. Oh, my God, I can't believe it's over. The summer's over. Blah, blah, blah. The only thing that's worse than coming back to work after a week off and a 3-day weekend, or after a 3-day weekend, is waking up on that Tuesday and not having a job to go to. That sucks even worse, believe it or not. And then you start thinking to yourself, my God, everybody's back to work, and I got to pay the mortgage. I don't have a job. So keep that in mind, folks, if you can. But it's going to be a big week. This is, obviously, I'm Bernie. Sid is out for the – and by the way, Happy New Year to my Jewish brethren. Happy Lunar New Year. This is Rosh Hashanah, which started at sundown last night, as many of you know. So I wish them a very, very sincere Happy New Year to my Jewish brothers and sisters. And as a Jewish friend of mine was explaining to me yesterday, to everybody, it's the Lunar New Year. It is a legit New Year, but this is the one the Jewish people decide is more important than I guess the whatever other New Year there is. The solar New Year, is that January 1st? I don't know, whatever. He said, but he tried to say that this is for everybody. There's a new beginning for everybody. That's what he was telling me, and I bought it. A hook, line, and sinker. It's a big week again, 9/11, 20 years later. We commemorate that on Saturday. And, you know, to me, that slob, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, you see that picture of him in the yellow, the off-colored, the stained T-shirt with the beard and the hair and all this stuff. He kind of looks like, I don't know, I guess if you rolled over in the morning and looked at Joy Behar, that's the way, to me, that's the way he looks. That disgusting slob is still down in Guantanamo Bay, and he hasn't had a trial yet. And of course, they want to give him a criminal trial. I believe the pre-trial, some nonsense begins today down in Guantanamo Bay. But last I heard, and I haven't checked on this too much because it just occurred to me, is that they want to have the trial here in New York City, as I recall. I'm not sure if that's true or not, if that's going to happen, but that's what that was the plan a couple of years ago, and then apparently it fell apart. So we have that. We have also, we're going to be celebrating this month the 100th anniversary of WABC Radio, period. That's a huge thing. Now, of course, Afghanistan last week, it just all went down, folks. It was crazy. It was nuts. It was shocking. I was just completely stunned at the ineptitude, at the apathy, and then the lies, and then the celebration over, the quote-unquote enormous success that we had. I mean, I was actually really, really stunned by it and disgusted, totally disgusted. The last when I left here last, it was 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, and about 15 minutes, 9:45, Sid saw a graphic on the TV, and he said there's been a huge explosion at the airport in Kabul. And, of course, it was that day that we lost the 13 Marines. It was terrible, terrible. But let's see, play clip number 4. So 13 Marines died, and Biden takes finally last Tuesday, we finally got out by 24 hours early. We tricked the enemy, and then Biden claimed victory on Tuesday. But this is what he said, and we gloss over, everybody glosses over. This is cut number 4. Cut number 4. Go ahead. I'll play that.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravely, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals.
So there you have it, an extraordinary success. And of course, everybody glossed over the fact that he mangled the word bravery. Play it one more time. Mangle that word.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravely, and selfless courage of the United States military. He can't even read it. I'm sick of this guy. I can't stand this guy.
But he's just he's a complete and total liar. We know that. He went to the Tree of Life Synagogue. Did you really? No, you didn't. Another flat-out, bust-out lie. And an enormous success, which, by the way, was Trump's fault, according to Joe Biden. Now, I am finally joined by my co-host this morning, sitting in for Sid Rosenberg. He does not have headphones, gentlemen.
Yep, we're running in a pair right now.
Congressman Peter King has joined me this morning. Good morning, Congressman
Bernie,
King.
it's great to be here. Sorry about this. I got stuck in Queens Boulevard, but I'm here now and more than...
It's great to have you. Now, we just started. We just started the show, so it's terrific to be here. How was your 3-day weekend, your last weeks of summer, generally speaking, Congressman King?
Actually, it was fine. My son was out. He plays hockey, so he comes out from Manhattan to spend the weekend with us. I went to John's party on Saturday night. It was with Rudy Giuliani. He was in good spirits. Everything went well, except for the Mets and Yankees yesterday. God,
well, listen, I have to tell you, the Mets lost yesterday, but they are ascendant, and that's flipping the script from when I left. I was complaining that I like to watch the Yankees when they lose, and they were on a 13-game winning streak, so I stopped watching, and now I think they lost the last 7 of 9. So I guess that's the key. If I want the Yankees to lose, and I don't know why, I'm a sick individual. I shouldn't. I root for the Mets. I'm a Mets fan. So by nature, I don't like the Yankees. But I actually enjoy watching them lose, and Michael Kay call a losing game. I enjoy that. That makes me a sick individual, does it not?
Yeah, well, I am definitely a Mets fan. Lately, I sort of caught on to Yankees a bit because Aaron Boone, I met him a few times. He's a nice guy. But, they get wiped out by Baltimore of all the teams.
The worst team in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, really bad. The Mets, Diaz, somehow in these big games, he seems to come up short.
Listen, all that thumbs up, thumbs down stuff, whatever happened, those guys, I think they rectified the whole bad feeling. Javi Baez and who was it? There was Lindor as well.
Two of them. But I have no patience with that. Listen, those guys should get paid the money they get. I don't care about that. But if you're getting paid $10, $12 million a year, don't be bitching when the fans boo you. I mean, that's part of the game. I mean, you and I would get booed all the time. That's right. That's right.
Hey, listen. The team owner. He said nothing, but the general manager, I understand, put out a tweet and said that this was not cool and that these guys actually, they actually apologized, did they not? They apologized overtly subsequent to that incident, no?
Yeah, they had a team meeting. I was listening to Keith Hernandez yesterday, and he was saying that apparently something did happen at the team meeting. The team did come together. And maybe, all sides got a lot out of the system. Sandy Alderson called the meeting. I think it was the players who really straightened it out. And the Mets seem to have a spirit going for them right now. I mean, they even with yesterday's loss, I have a feeling they're still going to come back. Whether they win it or not, it's going to be tough when you're down by 4. But I think they've shown some real ability to come back. Alonso has shown that that wasn't just a fluke a few years ago. He's up to 30 home runs now, He is a solid player, and some of the pitchers are really good too. Just think, if they only had Syndergaard and DeGrom this year, they would probably be
Imagine that. You're right. Yeah. You got to believe in that case, but otherwise, you got to believe. I mean, maybe they can pull it off. So, Congressman, I started the show, talked about a few things. This is a big week, 9/11, of course, the commemoration, 20 years this Saturday. And, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed has not been tried yet. That animal is still down in Guantanamo Bay. And correct me if I'm wrong, they want to bring him up to Manhattan to give him a criminal trial. Is that that was the case about 2 years ago, and then it sort of petered out. I don't know what happened. Do you?
Actually, it was almost 10 years ago. It was in President Obama's first or second year. They had this thing of bringing all these cases up to Lower Manhattan. I think that would be disastrous. I mean, the security issue that's raised by it. I actually saw Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. I was down in Guantanamo back in 2009, I guess. And first of all, anybody who complains about Guantanamo, let me just tell you, any soldier going through basic training has it worse than people in Guantanamo. I mean, these guys, they have arrows pointing toward Mecca or wherever they are. They get so many meals a day. They get art education.
Plus, we let out, 3/4 of the joint already, and 33% are recidivists. One of them, the guys that we let out, in exchange for the No Man Left Behind, Bo Bergdahl, only Bo Bergdahl, not anybody stranded in Afghanistan, that one of the guys we traded for Bo Bergdahl, it was one of the leaders who took over Kabul. Yeah. You can't even make that up. But they're down to a mere 39 people left out of hundreds and hundreds of terrorists because we let them out. I mean, what the hell was that?
To me, we really caved into political correctness. I mean, these guys, first of all, they're lucky they're alive to begin with. Secondly, they get treated better than any prisoner in the world. That I can tell you. And again, I saw Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He was in his cell, you want to call it that. He was saying his prayers. His beard was down to his feet, it seemed like. But no, listen, these guys carried out some of the worst atrocities ever, and they are, to me, being treated the way they should be treated, and there's no torture going on.
So what is the prospect? Where does the quote-unquote, it should be a military tribunal, obviously, but they want to make it a criminal offense. The liberals do. I don't understand that.
Yeah, that raises all sorts of questions, because then you have to bring in the accusers, you have to have witnesses. I mean, it's possible.
So where do we is it going to be tried?
I would hope they keep it as a military tribunal in Guantanamo. That's where it belongs.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, you were out at Mr. Katz's big party out in Southampton on Saturday night, and a lot of WABC celebrities and a lot of high rollers, as you point out, Mayor Giuliani, other people. Did any fistfights or anything break out? Anything that you can report that Cindy Adams, you might want to scoop Cindy Adams today or something like that?
No, it was actually a really, really nice event. Everybody was in good spirits. John brings all these people together, and then he sits there and enjoys the whole thing. He really just is, he was a happy guy.
And he's a wonderful man.
Yeah, he really is. And, of course, Margot was going around talking to everybody, and again, keeping the party going, even though, it's really not that hard to keep a party going. We have so many great people there. And it was really a very interesting group. It really was.
Yeah, well, let's go. I'm glad to hear you had a good time yourself.
I'm not a big Hamptons guy, but I mean, I enjoyed John's events out there.
Did you stumble out of the event, or were you were you carried out, or were you able to walk out on your own power?
I was able to walk out on my own.
Unlike Shines, when you and I go to Shines out in Long Beach. Congressman Peter King is here with me on the Bernie and Sid show. He's sitting in for Sid. Happy New Year to my Jewish brethren out there. Listen, Congressman, we're going to talk about a lot of things. Of course, the Afghanistan catastrophe. Apparently, 4 people were freed yesterday, and the State Department is trying to take credit for it. We'll get into all of that stuff. Also, Joe Biden is coming to, he's coming to town. Biden's coming to town. He's coming to New Jersey, and he's going to Queens. You think he's going to visit the flood-ravaged areas? No, he's going to the U.S. Open. He's going to sit in some corporate box owned by China to watch some doubles match or something like that. I don't know. Either way, traffic is coming up. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk to Bo Dietl as well. The no-cash bail law continues to rear its ugly head. An Asian woman punched in the head, knocked onto the subway tracks, and it turns out that the dude that did it 4 days earlier to another woman, and the guy he received a desk appearance ticket because, the no-cash bail laws. On the Bernie and Sid Show, 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-WABC. First day back, folks. We're all in it together. Don't sweat it. It's all good. You know what I mean? We're coming right back.
Stay informed with Bernie and Sid in the morning on 77 WABC.
my bell. You think this was Barack's wedding song, by any chance? Congressman King? It should have been, right? It's a lovely song. A lovely song. So it is. Back on the Bernie and Sid Show. Heard everywhere on the 77 WABC app. Simulcast out on Eastern Long Island. News Talk 107.1 FM. Also live streamed at WABCRadio.com. I am joined by the honorable statesman from Long Island, former Congressman Peter King. And it really is a pleasure and an honor to have you, sir. He's sitting in for my friend my partner, Sid Rosenberg, who's out for the Jewish holiday.
Let me wish Sid a happy Rosh Hashanah. He's a great guy, and I'll try and be the Jewish guy today.
Well, listen, the name King, you could is claimed to be Larry King's nephew.
Yeah, I'd say it's Koenig. Who knows, you know?
What's that?
You know, Koenig is the Jewish king, I think. That's what people have told me.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's
Larry King, yeah. You know, Don King.
Don King.
I can fit it everywhere.
Don King, that's right. He was
Don King claims we were
very
cousins.
devout Orthodox Jewish guy. Don King claimed that you and he were cousins?
Yeah, whenever I see him, that's what he says. You know, we're distant cousins. So
only in America. Only in America, baby. Only in America. Hey, look, you know, speaking of, we were talking about baseball there a little while ago. It was a huge weekend for college football. Huge weekend. And just keep in mind, Congressman King and listeners, and I know you're very cognizant of this, is that if the liberals had their way, we would not have these football games. If they had their way, we wouldn't have crowds at the U.S. Open or at baseball games right now. They would be empty if they pretty much have their way. I mean, I think in California they still they have sparse attendance and require masks at places like that.
Yeah, I was watching the Notre Dame Florida State game on Saturday night. There was 70,000 people in the stands.
Notre Dame won by a field goal.
They did. Boy, they were up 38-20, and fourth quarter belonged to Florida State, and then Notre Dame kicked the field goal. And the quarterback for Notre Dame, he threw 4 touchdown passes. Jack Cohen is from Sayville, which was in my old district. Yeah.
Yep.
And he's also, I think, either the nephew or the cousin of Pat Ryder, the Nassau County Police Commissioner.
Wow. Yeah. Pat Ryder, who I love, Pat
Great
Ryder.
guy, isn't he?
He really is. But listen, there was one guy that tweeted out a picture of all these people in the stands and the people at the U.S. Open, the people at the baseball games. But the guy tweeted, but kids have to wear masks in class. What the hell? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. A lot of people going back to school this week. I think New York City starts next week. And that's going to be a total disaster. The vaccine mandates, teachers don't want to get it. I mean, they're going to be understaffed. It's going to be you talk about chaos, but that's happening this week. You had a lot of people out on Long Island, these individual school districts, Comac, Smithtown, Massapequa, Farmingdale, I believe. All these school districts with moms protesting outside saying, I don't want my kids wearing masks in school, pretty much. And I think the polls show that more parents are against masks for kids in school than they are for them. I don't know. What do you think, Congressman?
Yeah, listen, I take the virus seriously, but, looking at it last year, and I have a granddaughter who's in school in down North Carolina even, and to me, whatever danger there is of the kids getting a virus without wearing a mask is outdone by the psychological impact this has on young kids.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's it's a terrible virus. It was for real. The fact is, it shows does not affect kids that often. And I think whatever, especially now with so many people being vaccinated, it's less likely the kids are going to get it. I think anyway. And the damage it's done to kids. I mean, they did it all last year. To be doing it again now. These are years where It's tough enough growing up and, trying to be halfway normal. When you're behind a mask and you're afraid you're going to be getting ill any moment, to me, it's I can understand why these parents don't want their kids to wear the mask.
It is traumatizing, and it's unhealthy. The masks are dirty. They've been proven not to work. I mean, there's no science behind the masks whatsoever. And the kids don't, the kids survive COVID. They survive it. They're healthy. And if the teacher's vaccinated, what's the problem? The vaccination is supposed to work. That's why it's mandated, right? That's what the government tells you. Yeah, there are some breakthrough cases. I cannot find a stat that shows me the percentage of quote-unquote breakthrough cases in the United States. I can't find that anywhere. I mean, maybe somebody, maybe Mike, our board op or our phone screener, Garcia, can find the number of percentage, but I asked Dr. Mark Siegel from Fox News, what is the percentage of breakthrough cases? That's people who get COVID who've been vaccinated. I can't find that number anywhere.
The number that I've heard from several doctors is 3%, and virtually none of them are serious. It's like 3%, I think, have been hospitalized. But again, it's in fact some of those who have been hospitalized on it or in the hospital for something else, and they got a routine COVID test, and it turned out they had COVID. But as far as any serious cases, it's really negligible. And listen, we have to be careful of this, but we can also overdo it. You have some people who want to keep us in this constant state of being afraid to look over, to even move without looking over our shoulder.
Yeah, hey, listen, this latest story, I don't know if you've heard about this or been following it. This guy, Joe Rogan, he is a podcaster, very popular podcaster, and also, and again, our phone screener Mike and I are big UFC fans. He is a commentator for the UFC. I mean, he's the main commentator, Joe Rogan. And, of course, they hate him because he's on Spotify. That's where his podcast emanates from. They hate him because when Biden dropped out of the race, he supported Trump. He talked about young people shouldn't get vaccines, blah, blah, blah. Well, he got COVID. He got the virus. And it turns out he took something called ivermectin. And believe me when I tell you, the liberals were rooting for this guy to die. They were rooting for him to just to buy the farm in a big way. And Rolling Stone actually came out with a headline which was picked up by a lot of people. Rolling Stone, the headline was that the cases of ivermectin overdoses so large in an Oklahoma hospital, they're turning away gunshot victims. And no less than Newsweek and a whole bunch of others. Rachel Maddow tweeted out the story. She still has that tweet up about ivermectin. So this is a case of hydroxychloroquine all over again, except Donald Trump's not involved. It's Joe Rogan. But, no, this lie went around the world, and even Joy Reid, you have Joy Reid? Joy Reid picked it up on MSNBC, repeated this lie. They were calling it a horse dewormer. Joe Rogan takes horse dewormer like he's some sort of nutcake. By the way, he's better. He took it. He got better. Anyway, listen to Joy Reid. So
things are clearly bad, but they're being made even worse by people who have refused to take the vaccine and instead are swallowing horse paste. The emergency room in one rural Oklahoma town is being overwhelmed by people overdosing on ivermectin, the horse deworming medication. It's gotten so bad that gunshot victims are having to wait to be treated.
There you go. Gunshot victims are waiting. Horse paste, first of all, ivermectin, horse paste. It is actually FDA approved for human beings. It is actually FDA approved, again, for human beings. This was Rolling Stone's update on the story. Quote, we've been unable to independently verify the report. Update. Doctors have said, no, we haven't treated one single case in Oklahoma of any ivermectin-related complications. Not one. But that didn't stop Joy Reid, Rachel Maddow, and the rest of them from jumping all over that. And also our colleague here at WABC Radio, Charlie Kirk, he tweeted this out. Oscar De La Hoya, fully vaccinated, still gets the virus, undergoes brutal hospitalization. Then he writes, Joe Rogan, not vaccinated, takes ivermectin and vitamins, doesn't undergo hospitalization, beats the virus, tests negative by the fourth day. Now, that's a success story, and that's killing these crazy, sick liberals who I don't know why they root for death and destruction and fear. I really just don't.
Listen, I'm glad Joe Rogan made it, but I wouldn't be encouraging people. To me, they should get the vaccine. That's the safest way to do it. I mean, again, maybe he lucked out, whatever it is. But again, it shows how the progressives and the liberals can help overreaching. They could have had a legitimate question with Joe Rogan, why he didn't get vaccinated, etc. But instead, they want him to die, and they started accusing him of taking horse medicine or something. But again, I wouldn't be urging people to get that. The safest thing to do is get the vaccine.
I agree with you. Get the vaccine, but I do believe in choice. And Joe Rogan's a young man. He did survive it. He took a therapeutic, and he survived it. And maybe he had the who knows? He was just afraid to take it. Here's this is from the Babylon Bee, the headline. Liberals feel sad for man dying of COVID, then happy again after hearing he wasn't vaccinated, then sad again because he was an illegal immigrant. That's the Babylon Bee. And also Joe Rogan. quote, I'm doing better, but I'm still a little hoarse, unquote. And finally, Joe Rogan criticized as anti-science, quote unquote, anti-science. Joe Rogan criticized as anti-science for surviving COVID. That's the Babylon Bee. That's funny.
If I go just off topic for a second, you mentioned Joe Rogan with the UFC. One of the best nights I ever had, I went with President Trump in October of 2019 to the UFC matches in Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yes,
I got invited. Yes. I thought we'd be sitting in some guy's luxury box or something. We were down in the stands with all the crazy
right.
fans.
I remember that.
I loved it. I remember Roberto Duran come over and started shadow boxing with him, and it was just a great night. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yes.
And he knew all the fighters were.
Oh, he's been friends with Dana White for many years.
Yeah, Dana White was there that night. Yeah.
And Dana White. Trump went to a fight recently in Vegas as well. But, yes, I remember that night you were there. I think it was Conor McGregor was fighting that night, November of 2019.
No, it wasn't McGregor.
It was Colby Covington, right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not a big UFC fan. I like boxing, but it was just great being there. But, again, I just remember President Trump being there.
Right.
And I have to keep in mind, hey, this guy's the president, because he looked like some guy hanging out in Long Beach.
The man of the people, he is. He's just a guy from Queens who got lucky with some millions and then parlayed that into billions is what he did. Former President Trump. Do you miss him yet?
Yeah, listen, he was a controversial guy. He was a great friend to me, I got to say. Whenever there was, my daughter was sick once, he'd call her on the phone. Whenever he would see me, he'd ask me how she's doing. He was just a great guy. I mean, and also, he's the guy who stopped MS-13 on Long Island.
Listen, let me just sum it all up. He made America great again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we miss him? Contrast and compare him to this imbecile we have now that screwed everything up. To quote Obama, never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F things up.
Yeah.
And my God, do we have plenty to talk about. He'll be in Queens today. He'll be in New Jersey and in Manville. You know the first thing they're going to do when he goes to Manville, New Jersey? They're going to say, make a note of this town. We got to change the name. Manville is politically incorrect. We're going to get into all that, plus Afghanistan. I'm going to talk to Congressman King. We may disagree on a couple of things on that. Traffic and sports coming up next, but right now it is time for the 77 WABC clip of the day. Listen to Dominic Carter, Sunday through Thursday at midnight here. Dominic talks about the equipment left behind in Afghanistan.
And as far as the deal for the equipment, it's sometimes there's no other way to say this. We have to report what government officials say. But, I mean, come on. Some of my colleagues are so slow. They're expressing outrage at the equipment being left there, but they're not asking or answering the question of why it was left there. I mean, come on. The United States of America, all of the huge cargo aircraft, I understand it's in enemy territory to fly there, very dangerous, but you just happen to leave everything? Come on.
This is Sid on Sports. On 77 WABC.
In for Sid again today, I am Justin Ellick here with your bottom of the hour sports update. The Mets came back down to earth a bit yesterday as they suffered a heartbreaking walk-off loss to the Nationals to cap off a marathon of a 5-game series at Nats Park. A Carter Keyboom RBI single in the bottom of the ninth inning was the final straw on the cap of the Nationals' 4-3 win over the Orange and Blue. The Mets will begin a 3-game set against the Marlins tonight as first pitch in Miami is set for 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time. The Yankees continue to struggle here as they head into the gauntlet that is September baseball. Yesterday, they stood no chance against the Blue Jays as they dropped the opener of their series in the Bronx 8-0. The game was tight heading into the ninth inning, with the Yankees down only 3-0, but dead bats for the Bombers and a Marcus Semien grand slam in the final inning quickly shredded all hope for Yankees fans. The Yankees will try and even up the series tonight at 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time with their rock on the mound in Garrett Cole. He'll face off against former left-handed Mets protege Steven Matz. Are you ready for some football? Summer's officially over, and that means the start of the NFL season. This Thursday night, the reigning Super Bowl champs will begin their title defense as the Dallas Cowboys head into Tampa Bay to face off against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. With sports updates at 30 minutes past every hour, I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC.
You're a holiday, such a holiday.
Back here in the Bernie and Sid show, heard everywhere in the 77 WABC app. Simulcast out on Eastern Long Island News Talk 107.1 FM. Also live streamed at wabcradio.com. Y'all, say hello to the camera, Congressman King. You're on TV. Hey, we're going to get into a lot of things. You know, one of the more disgusting things I read over the vacation was, I started paying attention at about Wednesday. I started to watch the news and was that they're going to do away with, they want to do away here in New York City, Congressman King, with the honor rolls and, accelerated classes. We already knew that about the accelerated classes. But they actually want to do away with honor rolls and, high grades. They want to downgrade grades. I mean, if that's not the most patronizing, I'll say it, racist thing out there, I don't know what the hell is. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Do you have any thoughts on that real quick?
It's totally dumbing down. It's disgraceful, and it's going to if that works, it'll turn us into a second-rate country. It'll take away the whole competitive spirit that's made America great.
It is they talk about the soft bigotry of low expectations. Just teach. What do you think? Do you really think that certain people are so stupid they can't learn? They used to. They can. Just fix your schools. Don't take the cop-out easy way and just say, we're going to drop, like what is China and Russia and everybody else going to drop their standards as well? We're going to be like the losers of the world. It's absolutely sickening.
And I agree with you. It is racism. It really is. It's basically saying that certain people aren't smart enough, which is BS. Anyone can be smart enough if they have proper parenting and good schools.
Absolutely.
And if the cops can maintain law and order.
You know, it's funny. I listened to this song over the vacation from the Winstons, and it's called Color Him Father. And in it, they talk about, the guy talks about fatherhood, education. I'm going to get that and play that song probably tomorrow, not right now. But either way, the president is coming to town, ladies and gentlemen. He's coming to Queens. He's coming to, I guess, Manville, New Jersey, which by
Personville.
All right, I was just going to say, they're going to make a note. Make a note of this, Manville. We got to change the name of this town. They're going to come to, so anyway, I don't know what he's going to do. Who the hell needs him here? I mean, who believes anything he says? He's down there. Here, play cut 5. He was down there in Louisiana last week, screwing everything up. Listen to one of the. I mean, he's so confused, Congressman King. One of his aides is former Louisiana Congressman Cedric Richmond, who happens to be a black guy. And listen to the way Biden refers to him.
I'm here. The FEMA director is on. FEMA director Criswell, she's on, and I'm here with my senior advisor and boy who knows Louisiana very, very well, man.
Did you hear that?
And New Orleans and Cedric Richmond.
Now, everybody ignored that. He called the black man one of his top aides, and this boy is. Can you imagine? Could you just imagine? I don't even want to finish the sentence because you know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, if that had been Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, George Bush, anyone, they would have gone crazy.
If he called the boy over there, Ben Carson.
Absolutely.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Also, let me just say, Cedric Richmond, he was on the Homeland Security Committee. We didn't agree on a lot of issues. He's a smart, able, tough-minded guy. And the president should be lucky he has him on his staff, and you shouldn't be referring to him that way at all.
Oh, my God. And again, glossed over. The media, they say the media is turning on Joe Biden after Afghanistan. No, they're not. Absolutely not. They didn't even play. There was some of these Gold Star mothers, what they said about him after he was pretending to be a Gold Star father. I mean, how disgusting is that? You talk about stolen valor. That was what Joe Biden was doing. But we'll get into that a little bit later. More on Biden down in Louisiana last week. I mean, totally, completely out of it.
All right, now Cedric, who are we going to next?
Governor Reese.
You are. I understand, Gov, you're not on video, but you are on the telephone. So, Gov, fire away. Is Mayor Cantrell on? Mayor Cantrell, are you on? I don't think she was able to get connected.
I don't think so, Mr. President, but we have Cynthia Lee Shang.
Oh, okay.
Wow. I mean, and so he's going to help out in this situation. Look, these floods were absolutely, absolutely awful. Get Eric Adams ready, please. Terrible, terrible floods. I mean, you and I, Congressman King, we went through Hurricane Sandy. 9 years ago.
Wow.
9 years ago, we know what it was like. We were lucky out in Nassau County, really, especially southern Nassau County, to dodge a bullet. We got some heavy rain, but I remember right after Sandy putting all my belongings out on the sidewalk to dry in the house. We had to move out. We left there like the Jode family leaving Oklahoma in, driving down Route 66. That's from the Grapes of Wrath for you public school kids out there. That's the way it was. I remember. So I feel for these people. You have like dozens and dozens of people killed. A Connecticut state trooper was actually swept away. So anyway,
some poor guy drowned in the Grand Central Parkway. I can't imagine that.
Yeah. And I own a professor and her husband. They both died. They just found her body last night up in Westchester County.
Wow.
Just found her body. So here's the thing, though. The rains, the hurricane, it was predictable. It was, I don't know if it was predictable, but the Weather Service was predicting catastrophic floods from this, and Mayor de Blasio completely ignored it. But yet, that's another story. We're going to get to that in a second. But they're using this hurricane, like we never had a hurricane before,
right,
or heavy downpours, to use as a political tool, to use it to promote climate change. Listen to Eric Adams.
What's going to prepare us is honesty. Let's be clear. We screwed up our planet, and this is the byproduct of that screw up. And we have to be honest about how do we move our country and our cities in the right direction. And it's not going to be done by the next storm. We're not going to build out our entire sewer systems. We're not going to do what Copenhagen did overnight. We need to be honest. If 300 years or 100 years ago we were receiving storms of this magnitude, we would have built differently. We're here, and now it's time to visit all of these countries.
Thank you, Eric Adams. So there you have it. It wasn't a matter of cleaning out the sewage drainage system or dredging the sewer or whatever it is, which of course that's what it was, especially in New York City here. I actually saw a bodega owner in rubber boots. He was walking in 3.5 feet of water. So the water was up to his thighs. He was out there himself with some sort of hoe or a pitchfork or whatever, cleaning a drainage, whatever the water runs down the drain at the corner. He was out there cleaning it himself. No, the Department of Sanitation, Mayor de Blasio, he got these warnings early in the day, did a press conference around 7 o'clock, never mentioned it. Same thing with Phil Murphy. He got the warning early in the day, Governor Phil Murphy. And the governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf, declared a state of emergency early in the morning. Governor Murphy did not do anything until the evening. I mean, these guys really dropped the ball, and that's why they were heckled yesterday out in Woodside, Queens. We don't have the tape. And, of course, the local fake news, I did not see that anywhere. I watched fake local news yesterday as part of my show prep, because normally I avoid it like the plague. But I swear to God, the local fake news, Mayor de Blasio and AOC and Chuck Schumer were in Woodside today, and they were giving comfort and aid to the people, the victims of the storm. They never mentioned that they were actually heckled and yelled at by the people. You did this. In fact, it's front page of the Daily News. The headline reads, here it is. Surprisingly enough, the Daily News, "You don't care!" Exclamation point. Angry crowd says city failed to prep for floods, let people die. But the fake local broadcast news never included that in their reports last night.
I mean, can you imagine if you have been hit hard by a flood and people died in the neighborhood and AOC comes walking in as if she can do anything about it? She was using it specifically as a media opportunity. No, listen, the city screwed up. This whole thing with climate change and this infrastructure bill they're talking about. Listen, we do need infrastructure, but what they have in there is everything from voting rights to, this is a socialist agenda, and they're disguising it as infrastructure. They totally redefine infrastructure. It's total BS.
It's a gambit to redistribute income. That's what it's all about. It's a socialist, a communist.
Increase taxes, right?
Yep. It's a scam. And so for them to use this horrific tragedy that we just endured last Wednesday to push that crap, that nonsense, as though this hasn't happened before. I think that the hurricane of 1938 actually created new waterways. I believe the Fire Island Inlet was created by the hurricane of 1938.
Actually, right into Long Island, created. Yeah.
Right, and other places. There's a place in Long Beach as well. Whatever. There was so many. So don't tell me this has been happening. What about Noah's Ark? Anybody ever hear of Noah's Ark, or was that just a fable from the Bible?
I don't know. We'll ask. They'll go to one of these honor students and ask them.
We'll ask the priest and the rabbi. 1-800-848-9222. We will talk about Afghanistan and de Blasio's. Same thing, right? Incompetent buffoon. And Biden's just catastrophic failure and lies. It's just the most disgusting. That's just horrible, embarrassing dishonor bestowed on this country. 13 American servicemen dead, hundreds of American citizens left behind, and a bunch of loyal Afghans left behind while we bring over a bunch of refugees who are not vetted. We don't even know who the hell they are. 1-800-848-9222 on the Bernie and Sid show with the Congressman King sitting in for my boy Sid Rosenberg. That's right. I called him my boy, my partner.
I'm leaving. I'm offended.
We'll be right back.
Celebrating 100 years of real New York.
77 WABC.
Real New York.
Wow, look at Congressman King busting a move over there. I didn't know you could cut up the rug like that.
That I have like 2 left feet, but I just noticed this. I'm not a big TV fan. I watch Blue Bloods. I watch the Mets. I watch college football. I don't watch NFL football anymore, NBA basketball. But Michael K. Williams, I used to watch Boardwalk Empire. I loved that show.
Chalky White, baby.
He was the best, really. And
it was good.
It's scary to believe a guy like this would have died at a young age.
I'm sure Bo Deedle knows him. Bo's coming up in about a half hour.
I was with Bo was there the other night. Of course, he took over the whole show. Anytime you go anywhere with Bo, I saw him twice last week. They had a dinner for Jim Fossel. He was there. He was at John Catsimatidis' party on Saturday night.
You and he both and Sid Rosenberg are bon vivants. That's what you guys are.
Nobody can keep up with Sid. Sid is that guy's on roller skates. He's going around. He's texting. He's tweeting. He's doing everything all the time. He never. Also, I can put in a plug. My boxing trainer, Chris Cardona. He's in a movie with Michael Keaton called Worth, and it's all about the 9/11 families, how they the victims' compensation came about. And I was actually very close to that, watching that with Ken Feinberg, who's a special master, and it goes through all the agony of 9/11, how the families had to fight to get compensation they were entitled to. What a tough job. How do you decide how much you give to a cop, how much you give to a Wall Street broker's family, all of that. It's really well done. So it's called Worth. It's on Netflix. And if I didn't mention it, the next sparring session, Chris would knock the hell out of me.
He'd knock you out, yes. Yeah. Michael K. Williams, maybe they'll take the border seriously now. Not to politicize it, but that, in other words, we're allowing fentanyl to come up. Yeah. This is what's killing people. I have people within my family who have died from fentanyl overdoses, and it's coming straight up from the border. Tom is in New Jersey. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, first of all, Bernie, you're so full of energy today. It's a great show, and Sid really, he had your back. I got one specific thing I want to say, and especially to Congressman King. But before that,
20 seconds.
9/11 stuff. This 9/11 stuff, I had 2 little kids on my basketball team that lost their dads in the 9/11 attack. And it is still so sad, especially with what's happened. But I want to acknowledge the Fordham football team. They went out to Nebraska.
Yeah, they put out 13 seats, I believe is what he's going to say. We're out of time. I'm sorry, very sorry, Tom. On the Bernie and Sid show, coming right back.
We are New York. Bernie and Sid in the morning. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Back here on the Bernie and Sid show. Heard everywhere on the 77 WABC app, ladies and gentlemen. Download that app. You won't be sorry. You get it straight here. A little raw sometimes, but you get it straight. Straight talk. Sid is out today, by the way, for Rosh Hashanah. And Congress, I have the honor, and Happy New Year to my Jewish brethren. Sincere Happy New Year to all of you. And again, I have the honor of having Congressman, the honorable former Congressman from Long Island, Peter King, sit in for Sid Rosenberg this morning.
It's great being here. It really is. You're right. I wish Sid and all our Jewish friends and neighbors a very, very Happy New Year. And I'll be a poor substitute for Sid, but I'll do the best I can. You got to carry me, Bernie. You got to carry me.
Well, listen, my back is hurting, but no, actually,
you're pulling your hair out.
My back is fine. Yeah, my hair is falling out. That is true. Listen, Congressman King, we haven't spoken about it yet, but what happened last week, and as at the end of the week before, the prior week, when we lost 13 servicemen. They weren't all Marines. There were some. It was an Army, Navy medic, a corpsman, and there were some women involved there. But either way, 13 beautiful, lovely, heroic servicemen we lost. On the last Thursday that I was here, and the last thing I said about it, because Sid said that 9:45 has been a huge explosion. I said it was all avoidable. It really was avoidable. It was preventable. They knew about it, and it was even worse than that. Joe Biden lied about it. Joe Biden lied. He actually had a phone call with the president of Afghanistan. First of all, while he had this phone call, which I'll just read a quick excerpt from in a second. As he had the phone call around the same period, he said this. Listen. Cut eight.
Takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. Because you have the Afghan troops at 300,000, well equipped as any army in the world, and an air force, against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
Now, that was in July. It was not inevitable. Right. That was the same week that he spoke to this Ghani, President Ghani there, who fled the coup with a bunch of cash. I don't know where he went to. I guess Qatar or some terrorist sympathizing place. But this is what Biden said to Ghani. Now, this was released by Reuters, as you know, Congressman King. Reuters, yes, that's right, left-wing Reuters. They released this transcript. Somebody leaked it from the Pentagon because they didn't like what Biden did, believe it or not. And this is what he said. After you heard him say, it's not inevitable. They have a big army. It's not inevitable. He says to Ghani, did Biden, I need to tell you the perception around the world and in parts of Afghanistan, I believe, is that things are not going well in terms of the fight against the Taliban. And here we go. This is the whopper. And there is a need, whether it is true or not, there is a need to project a different picture. That's Joe Biden, unquote, to the president of Afghanistan, urging him to lie about conditions in Afghanistan because he knew, he was told by the intel got it right. And, of course, Afghanistan, you look at the map, you see it documented. The Taliban was taking over starting in April, and it's just kept taking over more and more areas until it culminated in the end of August takeover of Kabul.
Starting with that phone call, when you consider that President Trump was impeached in the House for what is a totally innocent, almost innocuous phone call, the president of Ukraine, didn't involve one American life, no life was lost, no territory was lost. Here you have the president of the United States asking the president of Afghanistan to lie. As a result of that, you had Americans being killed. You also, when the president now criticizes Americans for not leaving Afghanistan, who were there, civilians who were there, they were being told by President Biden, there's nothing to worry about. Everything is fine. Right. So now he's blaming them for not getting out in time. Listen, you and I may disagree on this. I think we should have kept a permanent force, a small force, a Bagram Air Force Base. Afghanistan is hopeless. I don't even get into that. But to me, it enabled us to, by being there, we could monitor what was happening in Pakistan, which has 600 nuclear weapons, and we could keep the terrorists from regathering. As far as having a peaceful Afghanistan, no. But I think we could have kept a smaller elite unit at Bagram Air Force Base and used that as a base of operations. And but if we were going to get out, you don't do it in the helter-skelter, haphazard way that President Biden did it, without even telling our European allies. Listen, they said that Donald Trump lowered our image around the world because he would fight with NATO allies at public NATO meetings and ask them to pay their dues. That's all that Donald Trump ever did. In this case, we had allies in England. He never told the Brits we were pulling out when we did. We didn't tell the Afghan army or military we were pulling out when we did. Overnight, we turned out the lights of Bagram and disappeared. So that's why you find countries like, I hate to say it, but Britain and France and Germany who feel that they were knifed in the back by President Biden, when he just walked out like that. This was a shameful event, and those 13 Americans were killed. They were killed because of this absolutely insane, negligent policy, and that's why the president's trying to change the topic now, going to Louisiana, going to Queens, going to Jersey.
Right.
When you have Americans being held over there in Afghanistan, he should be doing 90, that should be 300
Congressman King,
total effort.
He just took a 3-day weekend. He took a 3-day weekend in the middle of all this death and destruction here in the United States, and plus people scrambling to try to get out of Afghanistan. There were 6 planes on a tarmac in Afghanistan being held hostage by the Taliban. Won't let them take off. They did get 4 Americans out, a California mother and her 3 kids. According to Fox News, the State Department is trying to take credit for it when it was individuals, military veterans, who actually facilitated that escape. But, a complete disaster. 13 beautiful. And by the way, those 13 servicemen that died, you look at it, it breaks your heart. They got less attention than George Floyd. I mean, they built statues of this guy. For what? For being a victim? And so anyway, it's disgusting. But there was a mother, a Gold Star mom, and what was disgusting as well was Joe Biden checking his watch as the bodies would be being taken off the plane at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. He checked his watch. That's unbelievable. You know that the major news organizations did not report on that?
No, in fact, they tried to cover later on, said it was after the coffins were off. The fact that he was doing it while. Yeah, I don't know how you can do that. I mean, you've been at 9/11 events. I have. They're so solemn. And that's commemorating something that happened 10, 20 years ago. Here you actually have the coffins of Americans being taken off the plane. I could be even thinking of what time it is, how much time you have to be there. I mean, to me, you'd be so traumatized by that event. You'd be doing nothing but staring at those coffins and thinking what their families are going through. How he could even think of looking at his watch is beyond me, unless he's just not totally connected.
And there was one Gold Star mom, which, again, this is how they say the media's turning on Biden over this Afghan. No, they're not. They're not. If a Gold Star parent had said what I'm about to play for you about Donald Trump, it would have led, Pretty Boy David Muir's ABC newscast, Don Lemon, all these fake newsers, CNN, MSNBC. It would have led the newscasts that the Gold Star parent lashes out at President Trump. Well, this Gold Star mom lashed out at Joe Biden, and you didn't hear it except for maybe 1 or 2 outlets. Take a listen.
Genius child, an IQ of 156. He could have done anything he wanted to do in the military, and he chose to be a Marine sniper. But I never thought in a million years he would die for nothing, because a feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap decided he wanted a photo op on September 11th. Every Democrat that's listening, you did this to my son to prop up a disgusting human being.
And she's right. Joe Biden is garbage. He is trash. He is a complete nothing, a lowlife, pandering lowlife. And about the photo op, she's 1,000% correct. He told George Stephanopoulos that we would not leave anybody behind. Right. If there was anybody behind, we would stay. That was a lie. He just lies. He blatantly lies, like he was at the Tree of Life synagogue. He just blatantly said that last week. Yeah, I was there. I visited the Tree of Life. He's a liar. Goes way back to 1987 when he talked about his Harvard credentials, graduating at the top of his class, and then having to drop out of that race because he plagiarized the guy Neil Kinnock from whatever. He's been lying forever. He lied about Corn Pop. He lied about the basis for his campaign, that Donald Trump called Nazis very fine people. That's why I decided to get into the race when I heard Donald Trump say that. Well, Donald Trump, of course, never said that. So either way, he is a dementia-ridden piece of crap. I agree with that lady wholeheartedly. And to your point about evacuating Afghanistan, I was listening to Cats at Night last week. I was on Wednesday. They were speaking to this former general who I believe works for the State Department. And I asked for the clip, but we don't have it. Anyway, he was great. He was terrific. And he talked about Trump's deal with the Taliban, the deal that he made with the Taliban. Now, remember, he made the deal with the Taliban. And then he dropped, 3 days later, he dropped the mother of all bombs on the Taliban. After he made the deal. Right. After he made the deal. And the Taliban, after that, they were like Boy Scouts. We didn't lose a man for the last 18 months in Afghanistan. And he told them, if you break the deal, I will eviscerate you. He told them that. So Joe Biden was not bound by that. That was the only deal that Donald Trump made that Joe Biden thought he was bound by. Give me a break. He's lying once again. Of course, he's lying again. And as far as Bagram Air Base goes, this guest that I'm talking about, he was on Cats at Night. He explained the whole Biden deal, and it included, did the deal, us staying at Bagram Air Base, Air Base. And so he wasn't bound by the deal, and President Trump was going to stay at Bagram. Why we evacuated Bagram?
Without even telling our allies.
Not telling anybody. Yeah. The German Prime Minister, the Boris Johnson, British. They were all very, very angry. They were there to help us because we were the ones who were hit on 9/11. They were there to help us, and we screwed them. But, take the military out first before you take the civilians out. And then the Taliban supposedly, reportedly, said to Joe Biden, look, you guys can keep Kabul until you get the hell out. And Joe Biden said, no, don't worry about it. We'll just keep the airport. And we know what happened. With 13 servicemen died because of the dementia-ridden piece of crap.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone, even the people who wanted to get out of Afghanistan almost immediately, would have done it that way. I mean, he had to be in the room and basically telling everyone that he knew more than they did. He knew more than the military. He knew more than the CIA. He knew more than the State Department. And listen, the State Department is no bargain. Having said that, I can't mention anyone signing off on what he wanted to do. And I've seen Joe Biden with this. He thinks he knows the whole story, and he thinks he's above it all. And what happened here was just indefensible. And even, the Afghan army, listen, they did run, but on the other hand, they also lost 60,000 people in battle. When they found out overnight that the air force, the air power was not going to be there, and that America was pulling out, they saw the handwriting on the wall, because their fighting capacity depended upon having air cover. But this is just terrible from beginning to end, no matter which side you're on, as far as whether we should stay in Afghanistan at all or leave entirely. He handled it totally wrong.
Can we agree on this, that the concept of nation building was a colossal blunder, both regarding Iraq and Afghanistan, and in general? It just does not work. You can't impose your culture on a bunch of people who the culture that you possess or that you're part of is completely foreign to these people. These Taliban people and a lot of the Afghans in general, they're like medieval, their mentality is medieval. Stone Age is what they are. The Taliban are Stone Age savages, I'll say that. The Afghan people themselves, they're not ready for democracy. I mean, we were there. You had this one lady tweet out, for 8.5 years I taught at the American University of Afghanistan as a faculty member. I founded the first gender studies program in Afghanistan's history there. All our work, hopes, dreams, progress, only to have it snatched away so needlessly. But was it needless? I mean, it was snatched away, but the idea that we were going to change their culture, at any point, was always a fantasy. It was a Sisyphean fantasy is what it was. You like that, right?
I like that word.
Sisyphus.
Yeah, wow, here you
go. So you had, over the years, you had people like Lindsey Graham, you had people like Bob Gates, you had all these high-ranking generals telling us that progress was being made. It was not being made. This was Bob Gates in 2011. He was the defense secretary under Obama. Listen to what he said.
And what you've accomplished is extraordinary, because over the last year, essentially, you have ejected the Taliban from their home territory. And if we can hold this territory and expand the bubble, then I think by the end of the year we can turn the corner in this conflict.
So there you go. We can turn the corner. Of course, that was always, again, a fantasy. It was never going to happen. And Lindsey Graham, same thing in 2011. I mean, he was all for Obama. He did a surge. He said, this is the just war. This is the good war. He was another one who lied to us. He sent in 30,000 more troops to perpetuate this madness. We should have gotten out right after we bombed Tora Bora. We should have gotten out 6 months later, 2003 the latest. This was Lindsey Graham in 2011 stating the progress that we're making.
We're on the verge, in my view, of turning this thing around.
Oh,
I
really?
see Afghanistan, Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Syria, Yemen as incredible opportunities to change the world for the better. If we as Congress accelerate the withdrawal schedule because it's popular at home, we will undercut all the gains we have made.
Libya, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, all vicious terror states, chaotic, almost not even no governments in all those aforementioned countries. He was dead wrong, and he doubled down on it, tripled down on it. In fact, he recently said he thought the Iraq war was still a good idea, just recently. So it was all this nation-building crowd that got a lot of our blood and treasure. It cost us a lot of blood and treasure, and people do have to be held accountable for the macro picture and for the micro picture, which was the evacuation in Kabul. And if you ask me, Congressman King, a military tribunal is in order here. I think there should be military tribunals of starting with the president to the Secretary of State to the Defense Secretary to Jake Sullivan to all these people, Mark Milley. They should be tried in a military tribunal and given the harshest sentence that can be meted out. And you know what that is.
Okay, let me start because I disagree with somewhat of what you said. First of all, as far as Afghanistan, we did drive the Taliban. We crushed them in 2001, but we couldn't just pull out. If we pulled out, they would have come back in, and we would have the same situation all over again. So if we are going to be there to try to create some sort of stability, if we are there, we can't allow women to be still having to lock in their homes with their faces covered. Now, millions of women have come out and have had normal lives for the last 20 years. I think we could have maintained a reasonable amount of stability there. It was never going to be a democracy. It was never going to, but for us to pull out, we would have been back where we were on September 10th. So that was the significance of staying there. I never thought it was going to be a nation building, but I thought while we are there, if we're going to be in charge, if you want to call it that, us and the Brits and the others, we can't allow women to be still being stoned and being locked in their homes. So the idea was to try to bring about some liberation, if you will, and maintain some sort of stability. It was a tough spot to be in. But again, Tony Blair did say this is a generational war we're going to have. As far as Iraq, we can debate that. Everyone, every top intelligence agent, I've spoken to the Israelis, the Brits, the Americans. Saddam Hussein, what he did was, first time ever, he wanted the world to think he had nuclear weapons. His own generals thought he had weapons of mass destruction.
But he didn't.
But nobody knew that.
A lot of people knew that. There was no evidence of it. There was no evidence of it.
No, there was all evidence. It was his own generals thought they had them. Their battle plans were based on using weapons of mass destruction.
I'm just sorry. There was absolutely no evidence whatsoever.
There was.
And turns out he didn't have them. How could there be evidence of it if he didn't have them?
First of all, he did have them up until at least a few years ago. That we absolutely knew he did have them.
He had some old weapons back when he fought the Iranians. Yeah. And by the way, taking out Iraq only helped the Iranians. They took out the Iranians' biggest enemy.
But Iraq now is reasonably stable.
It's a Shiite Iranian-allied country.
What caused the ISIS to be formed was when Obama pulled the troops out of Iraq in 2011 and had to put them back in 2014 because of the ISIS caliphate. This is a dangerous world we live in. It really is. Very, very dangerous world. And we did keep us safe in this country for 20 years.
The way to do it is the way President Trump did it at the end in Afghanistan. A minimal amount of troops and a lot of dropping of bombs, the mother of all bombs.
Well, that's what I said.
We will come to your town and eviscerate you. That's the only way to do it. Nation building.
But again, he was going to pull everybody out. Again, if we keep a permanent base, I would support President Trump's policy. We need a certain amount. Again, there are 600 nuclear weapons right now in Pakistan. We can't observe them. We observe them from Afghanistan. We threw drones over every day. There's Islamists in Pakistan. There are Islamists in the Pakistan government. We want to know where those 600 nuclear weapons are. And that was the main advantage to me of being in Afghanistan, flying drones over now to fly them. They're going to be maybe 50% effective.
Well, we're going to get into also, they use this debacle now to infuse the United States with over 100,000 refugees, having people who had nothing to do with aiding our troops and aiding the cause. Nothing. They used their debacle to force all these refugees down on us, and they're not even vetting them. Some of them are terrorists. Some of them are child rapists, et cetera, et cetera. 1-800-848-9222 on the Bernie and Sid Show with the great Congressman Peter King in for Sid Rosenberg.
The news and talk station of New York with Bernie and Sid in the morning. What is going on? Real New York. 77 WABC.
Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show, heard everywhere in the 77 WABC app, simulcast out on Eastern Long Island, News Talk 107.1 FM, and also live streamed at wabcradio.com. And listen, right now we're going to speak to my good friend. I'm sitting here, or we're going to do it at 7:40. Okay, all right, let's do it at 7:40. Bo Dietl, yeah, because this is a short segment. Listen, I was talking about the refugees. Now they're going to leverage their disgusting evacuation. That these complete and total dopes, these idiots, these buffoons, these clowns, these America haters. I'll add Anthony Blinken, by the way, the Secretary of State, who was out in the Hamptons while Kabul fell. Joe Biden was up at Camp David. All these guys, Lloyd Austin, Defense Secretary, was up at Martha's Vineyard when Kabul fell. All these guys, they were gone. Anyway, they didn't care. They knew what was happening. They got the intel. They knew. They just didn't care. They were on vacation. And so now they're going to leverage their big, huge, catastrophic mistake evacuating Afghanistan. The way they did it cost the dishonor of it, leaving people behind. Leave no man behind, except Bo Bergdahl, I guess, right? A deserter. They left people behind. You got 6 planes on the tarmac in Afghanistan right now. Can you imagine being in one of those planes? The heat, the hunger, the thirst. There are supposedly American citizens on board these planes right now. So the hostage situation continues. But in the meantime, we have all these Afghani refugees coming to this country, and I will read this to you. Dateline, New Zealand. Authorities on Saturday identified the ISIS-sympathizing terrorist who stabbed at least 5 people in a New Zealand supermarket as a Kiwi-hating 32-year-old refugee. Reportedly listened to the songs about drinking from the blood of disbelievers and was under 24/7 police surveillance. Now, that's what we have. That's what we have. People coming over here. You have people who are on terror watch lists. You have people who are on child rapist lists, child trafficking lists. They were not vetted. These were not people who had these SIVs, special immigration visas. These are just, anybody that ran to the airport, they let them go on. So embedded with these people are a bunch of bad guys. So what do we do about that, Congressman King?
I'm not as much of an executioner as you are, but I believe that the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and also General Milley, the Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, should resign immediately. They are incompetent. They've proven themselves. Any other form of government, they'd be gone. They should go. That's number one.
And by the way, Joe Lieberman made that point also on Cats at Night,
okay,
which was that in a parliamentary democracy,
right. Well, the president would be gone also.
Right, we would have a vote of no confidence right now, and they'd all be gone. But so our founding fathers kind of let us down because now we're stuck with this creep for 3.5 years, or him or Kamala Harris.
But what we should do is demand the resignation of the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who, by the way, spent more time being worried about Donald Trump leading a Nazi coup in the country
and also,
than worried about American
also
troops.
About this woke nonsense, teaching kids, teaching soldiers and sailors to read white fragility and stuff like garbage like that.
Yeah, he really has to go. Now, as far as the refugees, we have an absolute obligation to those with special visas, but the others, I share your view on this. I saw it happen in Syria. You actually had ISIS and Al-Qaeda trying to sneak people in with the refugees, and Donald Trump was criticized and attacked for not just letting all the Syrian refugees. Even Jim Comey came and told us in secret testimony that there's no way we could determine the validity of those refugees coming in from Syria, and that we knew that the Islamists were going to sneak terrorists into the country that way. So I don't know what we're going to do now. We have to have much, much stricter vetting. Anyone who has the visa, anyone who put their lives in the line for us, we have to protect them. But the others, no, we have to go through that with a fine-tooth comb. And if we have to be hard-ass, we have to be hard-ass. Because all you need is 1 or 2 of them to get in, and we could have the New York City subway system gone tomorrow.
President Obama used to say about gun control, even if it saves one life, it's worth it. Well, yeah, that's exactly the case with these refugees and with the hundreds of thousands coming over the southern border as well. Yeah. There's a reason why we need laws and borders and stuff like that. Even if it saves one life for President Obama, you're right. That's why we need these laws. And listen, sometimes I sit here next to you, Congressman King, and I don't forget, but You were the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee in Congress for many, many years. You were a man of authority. You were a man who was responsible for protecting this country for a long time. So you know of what you speak. And I just want to reiterate that at this point.
Thank you.
And you were a great statesman. And, by the way, during your tenure here, I think it was pretty safe in this country. It got bad for a little while under Obama, but for the most part, we didn't see another 9/11.
Donald Trump crushed the ISIS caliphate. He did that, and he also let the police and others do what they had to do on terrorism. Listen, on a less important note, I see Lauren Conlon is out here today. She was bothering me a few weeks ago with some interviews she wanted to do, and now she's making faces in, well, we're trying. Is there any way we can at least put her to work or have her take a photo so I can put it on Facebook?
You want to put her to work? I think she's preparing to read the news.
Well, after she does that, I don't know what she's doing out there.
I think we got a beef here between Congressman Peter King and our news lady, Lauren Conlon, but we'll hash that out later.
This is Bernie and Sid in the morning on 77 WABC.
It is the Bernie and Sid show. That's right, on 77 WABC. Heard everywhere on the 77 WABC app. Simulcast out on Eastern Long Island News Talk 107.1 FM. And also live streamed at WABCRadio.com. I got a book FedEx to me during my vacation. It's entitled, Congressman King, who is sitting in for Sid Rosenberg. And a Happy New Year, sincere Happy New Year to my Jewish brethren. Good, I'm sorry?
Good Yontif. I learned that, a long time ago.
Thank you. So the book is entitled 9/11 Remembered 20 Years Later by a gentleman named Bob Martin. And he dedicates the book to an officer, a Marine veteran who lost his life on 9/11 called Mike Curtin. And anyway, the book was sent to me from Bob Martin via Bo Dietl, our good friend Bo Dietl, who is on the line right now. Good morning, Bo.
Hey, good morning. I'm sorry Sid's not there, but you got a good replacement with my congressman there. Peter, love you, brother.
Hey, Bo, you're the best. You're the best. You're one of a kind. Thank God.
Yeah, now, I want to talk about this book because we know what Saturday is. But real fast, I just had to let a couple of things go. What's going on in Afghanistan with those heroes. 13 American heroes were killed. Now it's all over. We forgot about them. It's not the same like our friend George Floyd, a real American hero, a criminal and a junkie, $40 million to his family. And these poor kids will never be remembered again. But yet that punk junkie got $40 million for his family, statued. Oh, he's like a saint. They'll make him a saint next. This aggravates me. Yep. And the other thing that really aggravates me, this thing with the floods. All I remember as a kid, we used to have torrential rains, hurricanes, hottest summers, everything in the 1950s. And, Peter, you remember it, too. This is nothing new. This is bullcrap. And all this is, the AOCs and all that, sewers. That's what it's all about. The last time I cleaned out a sewer was in 1985 when I investigated the Howard Beach case when those kids went into Howard Beach, when they pulled knives on the Italian kids, when they testified they had no weapons, but yet they came out during the trial and they pulled knives. So we had to search the sewers, and there was so much gunk in those sewers. All these floods in New York City are caused by one thing. The sewerage has not been cleaned out. That's the fault of this mayor, the governor, and everyone else. So until they clean that stuff out, we're going to have floods every time it rains. So that's the facts about this crap. Now let's get to more important things. The fact is 9/11's coming up on Saturday, and I went down there with Mike Cervola, my partner, and we were down there that day when the towers came down. Bob Martin, who was a cop with me in the street crime unit, he's a former inspector. He was 32 years on the job. So he wrote this book. It's a fast read. You can't put it down, and it talks about stories about people who died and people who survived. And a lot of people don't realize, too, he mentions about St. Francis Prep. It's a high school. They lost 19 alumni, fire department, NYPD, Port Authority, and so many of them die every year with this toxic stuff that they got for being down in 9/11. My friend John O'Neill used to be an FBI head.
This is amazing.
I used to drink with him in the lanes. He would tell me stories of going after bin Laden, and then bin Laden came and got him in the World Trade Center. He was killed.
Bo, if I could interrupt, if Hollywood should do a movie about anybody, it should be John O'Neill. What a fascinating life! What a gutsy, courageous, patriotic guy he was.
Yeah, John was with Nicoletti, and they were going after when those 4 Americans were killed in Pakistan. They were going after the killers, and that's when bin Laden first popped his ugly bearded face up, and they were after him. Then John took a job as director of security of the World Trade Center. Sure enough, bin Laden got him. Bin Laden got him when they crashed the planes in there. And let's not forget, there was 343 firemen killed, 23 members of the NYPD, 37 Port Authority, total of 71 law enforcement. But just think about St. Francis Prep. They had all those alumni that were killed there. And this book that was written by Bob Martin. Now, Bob was a cop with me in street crime on Randall's Island. He writes where you can't put the book down. And I'll guarantee you, anybody that gets this book, you can get it on Amazon, 9/11, remember, 20 years later. I will guarantee you've never read anything like it. It's from the perspective of people who survived, but also the heroes that never survived. We lost a female police officer that was killed that day.
Moira Smith.
And so many of these
and also Kathy Mazur, Port Authority cop who lived just a few blocks away from me. She was actually like John Wayne. She used her gun to blow the windows out at the first floor,
right,
so people could escape.
And you want to know something? It's in the book, and it's a fast read, Congressman. I'd like to get you a copy, too, because it's something I tell everyone. You should read this, and then you think about 9/11, because with all the tragedies that are going on with Afghanistan and this moron president that doesn't know what, he lies and lies and lies. He makes Trump look like an altar boy.
Oh, he's absolutely disgusting. I mean, it's a habitual liar, and it's becoming evident even to the fake news people. Last week, talking about being at that synagogue that was where the white supremacists shot up a bunch of Jews. He said he was there. I mean, it's just a flat-out, bust-out lie. And, of course, all the lies he told about Afghanistan leading up to the deaths of 13 Americans and hundreds of American citizens being left behind. Just lie, 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 lie. I'm calling for a military tribunal and a harsh sentence to follow for President Biden and the rest of these clowns down in Washington.
Bernie, why doesn't the news media let the people that were there with them when they were bringing their loved ones back from Afghanistan in the coffins, why didn't we hear what the families had to say to the president? Because that's not part of their shtick. The fact is, all he did was talk about his son. God bless his son that died of cancer. In reality, no one wants a child to die. But he didn't die in combat. And certainly his other junkie, crack-smoking skid that's making all this money, that other punk there, all of a sudden he puts himself into the story. How can you put yourself in the story with these grieving families? And you want to know, it happened a week and a half ago. These kids are going to be forgotten, but yet George Floyd, the hero of America, will never be forgotten. But these young Marines that gave their lives will be forgotten in a week. This is disgusting.
Yeah, they're already moving on. They're trying to move on now. It's I don't know, Willard Scott. It's the Texas abortion law. It's Michael K. Williams. Forget about the 13 who were slain for nothing, absolutely nothing, no reason whatsoever. And now on top of that, Bo Dietl, we have all these refugees, these Muslim refugees who have not been vetted and are being just released into the interior of the country.
This is so scary with the refugees because Congressman King, who was the congressman who was the chairman of Homeland Security, knows better than anyone. We had to check these people out. This is a religion based on one thing. They want to kill the infidels. Now we've got them all coming in here. There are some good Afghan people, but there are psychopaths that are bent on one thing, of destroying. And what about, what this reminds me of? This reminds me of China releasing the COVID into America to take over our country and destroy us, which they did. Yep. Now they bring the terrorists into our country again. So this is like a human COVID into the United States of America. Think about it the way I'm saying it.
I like it. I like that analogy, Bo Dito. That's brilliant, as a matter of fact. And you can throw in the southern border while you're at it.
Right, going back with Castro, and he let all the criminals out of jail in Cuba.
Jimmy Carter, yeah.
Right.
Wait a second. He let Tony Montana out, too. Peter, we got Tony Montana. Without that, we wouldn't have Scarface. Come on, Scarface.
Yeah, those Cubans were called the Somethinistas. What the hell were they? What was the?
It was called the boat migration, whatever it was.
Marietta, like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Bo Dito, the book is 9/11 Remembered. I can attest to the fact that it is. You will not want to put it down. 9/11 Remembered. 20 years later, by former officer Bob Martin, who wrote me a nice, beautiful inscription. But yes, dedicated to former officer Mike Curtin. And again, Moira Smith, the only NYPD female officer to die in 9/11, and John O'Neill, an incredible story about John O'Neill in this book, Bo Dito. So I urge everybody to get it. Amazon.com, 9/11 Remembered, 20 years later by Bob Martin. And thank you, Bo, for bringing it to my attention.
Hey, guys, thank you. And listen to me, Congressman King, with all seriousness aside, you are one great American. You stood up for this country your whole life. Now we really have two epidemics, COVID, and we got the Afghan terrorists that are being allowed to come into our country and infect our country with terrorism, and it's going to start. I'm buying more ammunition.
Bo Dito, the great American that he is. Bo, thank you so much on the Bernie and Sid show with Congressman Peter King. Sid is out today for the New Year, the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. Happy New Year to all my Jewish brethren.
Bernie, if I could just say something.
Yeah, sure.
Bo mentioned about St. Francis Prep, a great school. 19 alumni were killed. Down the block from my house at Seaford High School, they lost 5 alumni, and every year they have a great memorial service for them. Hundreds of people show up. 2 of the 5 were the Haskell brothers, Tom Haskell and Tim Haskell. Their third brother, Ken Haskell, was also a fireman. He survived 9/11. His 2 brothers were killed. We're going to ask you, is it possible to have him on the show this week? He is one of the most articulate guys.
Of course.
He has kept the Seaford community together.
We'll do it tomorrow. How about
Great.
that? Yes,
Okay.
Well, while you're here, Congressman Keaton, we'll do more of this later in the week. We have a lot more to talk about. The New York City public schools, they want to do away with the honor roll and grades. Yeah, math is racist. That's right. And also, Joe Biden is coming to town. Joe Biden is coming to Queens and New Jersey. What a joke. Stay the hell away. Nobody needs you, you creep. And also the ivermectin story. Lydia Serenide this is a weird story, the ivermectin hoax, if you will. We'll get into all of it here on the Bernie and Sid Show. We'll be right back.
Stay entertained and informed now with Bernie and Sid in the morning.
Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show. I had this audio from this former general who worked at the State Department on Trump's plan that Joe Biden was bound by to leave Afghanistan. You're going to want to hear this, folks. It was very illuminating. This guy was terrific. Let's go to Vic in Brooklyn. Justin, please. Vic in Brooklyn. Good morning to you, sir. You're on the Bernie and Sid Show with Congressman Peter King and Bernard.
Good morning, Bernard. Good morning, Congressman King. Up Cardinal Hayes. Congressman King, you are being honored by the Santora Foundation. Christopher Santora, the youngest firefighter killed September 11th. And at that time, I
remember that was back in June. I think it was back in June of 2014. I think that was. I remember that. It was in Astoria. Didn't we have the ceremony in Astoria? I think.
Great memory. The 2 points I want to make is at that time you had told me you were considering running for president. I called your office numerous times. You know what? I would have worked tirelessly for you. That's number one. Number two, where that toddler drowned with her parents, that was 1 block on Laurel Hill Boulevard from St. Teresa's Grammar School.
That was
wow, I went to St. Teresa's. That. Wow, Laurel Hill Boulevard. My grandmother lived about 2 blocks from there. Wow.
Quickly, thank you very much, Vic. And
Vic, thank you for that.
Horrible story. Carol is in New Jersey on the Bernie and Sid Show with Congressman King. Good morning, Carol.
Hi there, Bernie. Welcome back, and hello to Congressman King, who I've spoken to about Northern Ireland.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I admire your work there. I would rather see President Bush and President Trump in New York on Saturday.
Oh, absolutely.
Biden.
Biden. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Biden's coming to town. Go ahead.
I hope they're going to be there, at least President Bush. I'm really hoping that he's going to be there.
Well, he should be there. I don't know if he will be. They threatened to disinvite President Biden from the memorial services on Saturday if he didn't declassify certain documents, which I understand he did, Congressman King.
Well, he did. What he did was he told the State Department to declassify, or the Justice Department, all the documents that could be declassified. So we'll see what happens when time actually comes.
All right. So it could be a BS move. On the Bernie and Sid Show. Be right back.
We are New York. Bernie and Sid in the morning. Talk Radio 77. WABC.
Trying to make a living, but doing the best I can. Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show, heard everywhere on the 77 WABC app, simulcast on News Talk 107.1 FM out in the Hamptons, ladies and gentlemen. Also, live streaming at wabcradio.com, y'all. And I am honored to be joined by the former congressman from Long Island, the great statesman, Congressman Peter King, sitting in for my good partner, Sid Rosenberg, who's out for the Jewish New Year. Happy New Year. Sincere Happy New Year to my Jewish brethren. Congressman King, it's great to have you.
Great to be here. Really is. I'm, again, a substitute for Sid, who's hopefully back in Temple praying for the two of us.
Yeah. I doubt about the latter part of it, but he's out there somewhere, and he deserved it. He worked hard, tough summer. Hey, listen, you and I were talking a little baseball earlier this morning before we get back into some of the more serious stuff here. And it's they flipped the script. The Mets are ascending, even though they lost yesterday, and the Yankees are on the way out, which gives me pleasure to no end. I hate to say that. It makes me a sick individual, but that's, I only enjoy watching the Yankees when they're losing.
Yeah, I grew up a Yankee hater. I tolerate them now, but I love the Mets. I've been with the Mets since 1962. I've gotten to meet a number of the players over the years, really good guys. And they're really coming together. They came together in the last few weeks. They had a rough time yesterday when Diaz lost the save there, blew the save. But I think the Mets can do it. To me, a guy like Alonso is really good. I like Seth Lugo, Familia, that's getting the job done. And there's PR and VR. I get the two of them mixed up. They're getting key hits.
Yeah.
Jeff McNeil is a clutch guy.
The thumbs up, thumbs down thing that blew
I got fed
over.
up with that.
That was bad, but they rectified
and
it.
That may have been, what the Southerners call a come to Jesus meeting, and that had a team meeting, and it seemed like maybe a lot of intensity or antagonism sort of dissipated with that. Now they get it all out in the open, and I have no patience for a guy who's giving thumbs down when he's getting $12 million a year. Having said that, I think that's all in the past, and they're really working together as a team.
That's good to hear. And by the way, everybody out there in your cars or driving to work, and it's like the end of summer, it's back to school, it's Tuesday, even though the New York City schools don't open until a week from yesterday. We're all in this together. It's all good. It's another year, and summer will be back next year, so just misery loves company. We're all in it together, ladies and gentlemen.
All in it together.
Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's good to be alive. Good to be alive and healthy. And by the way, speaking of sports, Congressman King, I actually watched, believe it or not, for the first time in years, I got into the U.S. Open out in Flushing, which, by the way, out in Queens, Joe Biden will be arriving today, and he'll probably be going to some Chinese corporate-owned box at the U.S. Open and not to Woodside, Queens, to check out the destruction. I wouldn't be surprised. But either way, I was watching the U.S. Open. I got into it. The matches were great. No-name people, really. The only guy in it is this guy, Djokovic. But I just liked it. I started watching Sloane Stephens, Madison Key at the beginning, and then later on, this Naomi Osaka got kicked out by this great young lady, Leylah Fernandez, who plays today. I know these are names you never heard of before, but I loved it. And her attitude was terrific. And then I was rooting for this guy Tiafoe. His parents immigrated here from Africa, from Sierra Leone, and I'm rooting for this guy. He's playing a Russian. And he wins. He beats the guy, and I'm like, this is great. So then he's playing again. He's playing 2 nights ago. He's playing again, this guy Tiafoe. And then no politics whatsoever. Now, the U.S. Open is notoriously liberal.
Right.
But there's no politics. There's no nothing. It's great. I mean, I didn't even think of politics. I didn't even think of it at all.
You had a good escape.
Right. Until the U.S. Open, a commercial comes on, and they actually show Naomi Osaka and this guy Tiafoe, who I was rooting for. I love African immigrants. He's the son of African immigrants. They're both wearing, essentially these F the police masks. Mm-hmm. And they ambushed me. I'm sitting there watching. They ambushed me, these U.S. Open people, and I had to root against this guy Tiafoe all of a sudden. I mean, just leave that stuff out of it. What are you doing?
Yeah, and also, Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with Black Lives, because there's Black lives being killed every week in Chicago and New York, and they say nothing about it.
A 4-year-old kid shot in the head and killed over the weekend.
This is a anti-cop, anti-police, anti-American Marxist group, and that's why I was so outraged last week. Here we are leading into September 11th, all the heroism with the cops, the firefighters, all the work the cops do to keep us all safe, and the NFL is now saying that it's okay for players to kneel during the national anthem, and there's 6 different slogans that the NFL players can have in the back of the helmets. George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, others like that. Black Lives, everyone who wears that is anti-cop. This is anti-cop. And to do that in the week of 9/11 at a time when blacks are being killed all over the country not by cops, but by other blacks. And to me, this is such an outrage. It's insult to African Americans. It's insult to Americans. And so I'm not watching the NFL. I can't handle the NFL. I can't handle the NBA. I mean, here's the NBA who is so upset about rights here in this country. And they're tied in with China, which is one of the most oppressive countries in the world. They're all hypocrites. And again, I grew up as a Giant fan, a Jet fan. I remember Charlie Connolly, Frank Gifford, Joe Namath, all that. I loved NFL football. I can't watch it now. There's such phonies, and Goodell should be, I don't know when he makes $40 million a year to be anti-cop.
So they're putting that you were telling me up there. They're putting the certain things on the helmets.
Right. There's 6 allowed slogans. None of them are about the cops. It's all like Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, and you remember a few years ago.
That's why I said essentially F the police masks. It didn't say that. Right. It said something else. I don't even want to repeat what it was. Right. But it was essentially F the police.
Right. Oh,
which is what that is.
Terrible. And, as I recall, when there were cops assassinated in Dallas several years ago, and Dallas Cowboys wanted to put American flags on the uniform,
wouldn't let them.
The NFL said they couldn't. That somehow violated a code. But it's okay to put Black Lives Matter or anti-cop people at a time when we need the cops more than ever. So the hell with the NFL.
The hell with the NFL, and the hell with these people who I've been calling for a military tribunal, this Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, this idiot, this worm who was bitch slapped by the Chinese in Alaska, as one of our guests characterized it. This guy actually is allowing Black Lives Matter flags to be flown at embassies around the globe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, does not understand that this organization has caused more death and destruction in the black community than any other organization currently around. I mean, does he not understand that?
And no one has saved more black lives than the police. Here in New York, NYPD, you had 2,000 people being killed a year, almost probably 80% of them were African Americans. That was reduced down to 200. So every year you can say that the NYPD saved 1,500 black lives a year for 20 years. Until we let the riots run wild last summer, and Governor Cuomo said he was proud to stand with the protesters who were throwing Molotov cocktails at the cops.
And you had congressmen like Max Rose from Staten Island, who thankfully was defeated. He was marching with these people out in the streets. I mean, give me a break. Look, and then you have Joe Biden last week, and he's coming to town today. He's coming to Queens to visit the flood-ravaged areas. Also, he's going out to a place called Manville, New Jersey. And as I mentioned earlier, he's probably going to make a note to one of his aides saying, we got to make a note of this. We got to change the name of this town, Manville. That can't stand. Not in 2021. But anyway, this was him last week during a FEMA meeting. He was on a virtual call. And how he referred to one of his top aides, former Congressman Cedric Richmond. Just listen to this. And the media completely ignored this stuff. Listen to this.
I'm here. The FEMA director is on. FEMA director Criswell, she's on, and I'm here with my senior advisor and boy who knows Louisiana very, very well, man, and New Orleans, and Cedric Richmond.
A boy who knows Louisiana. Did I mention that Cedric Richmond was black? And here's my top aide, this boy who knows Richmond. Imagine if President Trump said that, and here's my Health and Human Services Secretary, this boy, Ben Carson, over here.
That's all will be on the national news. Demanding apologies, people will be boycotting, everything will be going on.
And you never heard that probably before until I just played it, right?
No, not a word.
See, that's what I do here. That's what I do, ladies and gentlemen.
Also, you notice how confused Joe Biden? Listen, I traveled with President Trump several times when he was coming to New York to give speeches, really detailed speeches on complex issues involving MS-13. His staff would prepare about 30 pages of stuff for him to read. He would barely look at it. And he went out, was flawless. He never made one mistake. He knew who everybody was in the audience. He knew everything. And yet he had Biden know nothing. He didn't even know the name of his own staff people. Head of his own FEMA.
No, he's. In fact, I have a little more from that FEMA meeting. Go with 6 here, Justin, if you would. Yes, to your point, Congressman King, I was going to skip over it, but the confusion on the part of this, as that Gold Star mother called him, a demented piece of garbage, piece of crap, I think is what she said. Anyway, here's more from Biden at that FEMA meeting.
All right, now Cedric, who are we going to next?
Governor Reeves.
You are. I understand, Gov, you're not on video, but you are on the telephone. So, Gov, fire away. Is Mayor Cantrell on? Mayor Cantrell, are you on? I don't think she was able to get connected.
I don't think so, Mr. President, but we have Cynthia Lee Shang.
Oh, okay.
Do we need this guy coming to Queens and New Jersey today in the middle of these tragedies while these people are trying to... Do we need this idiot to come here? Send the FEMA director and keep this moron who just took a 3-day vacation. That was Friday. And, well, I don't know if that was Friday, but either way, on Friday, he left for Delaware. And now today he's returning to work in the middle of the Afghanistan emergency where planes are stuck on the tarmac and in the middle of half the Northeast and from Louisiana to the Northeast, death and destruction, flooding, all that stuff. And he takes a 3-day vacation. He thinks he's going to show up in Queens and New Jersey today and act like he's presiding over something. I don't think so, Joe Biden, especially after your Afghanistan debacle, which, by the way, he said, hey, listen, I was bound by Trump's plan. And Trump's agreement, I should say. I was bound by Trump's agreement with the Taliban. And but blame it on Trump, is what he said. It was an enormous success, but blame it on Trump. And even when he was saying it was an enormous success, he screwed it up. He mangled it. Take a listen to this.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals.
The skill and bravery of our U.S. soldiers. Oh, okay. Again, just glossed over by everybody. I guess there were bigger things going on than picking out stuff like that, but didn't escape my ears. Now, regarding the plan that Trump, the agreement, I should say, that he entered into with the Taliban. Remember, after he entered into the agreement with the Taliban, he dropped the mother of all bombs on them, so he didn't even abide by his own agreement. But this was this guy. His name is what's his name again? John Pops.
Dean Pops.
Dean Pops. He's former Assistant Secretary of Army. Dean Pops, and this is what he said about Biden having to abide by. He was on Cats at Night. Let me set it up. He was on Cats at Night last Wednesday. I happen to hear this, and this guy is a former general, former Assistant Secretary of the Army, Dean Pops, on Biden having to abide by Trump's agreement with the Taliban. Take a listen.
Biden could have kept or left anything he wanted. He was not bound by this. And in fact, the Taliban violated this agreement. Mm-hmm. So the notion that you now have the President of the United States saying, oh, I'm bound up by an agreement that Trump left me. Yeah, Trump left you with an agreement. Okay? The enemy violated this in 100 different ways, and you're free to do whatever you want with it. So that the fact that you now are trying to go out and tell the American people, oh, I'm bound by what he did, and that's why I left.
And he also said that Trump planned to keep Bagram Air Base. This guy, Dean Pops, said that on Cats at Night last Wednesday night. By the way, Cats at Night, 5 o'clock every afternoon. It's a great show. He gets all the heavy hitters. He also had on former Senator, I should say, my good friend Joe Lieberman, your friend. And Joe Lieberman said that, look, this is a disaster right now. If we had a parliamentary democracy, we would have a vote right now of no confidence in Congress or in the parliament, and we would get rid of Joe Biden. We don't have that mechanism to do that right now. We don't have it at all. We're stuck. The founding fathers kind of let us down.
Yeah, fortunately, I happen to be on Katz's show both evenings they were on. Joe Lieberman is a great witness. Pops was also excellent. And, if you recall, Joe Biden's first day in office, my wife Rosemary always reminds me that he was do away with all of Trump's executive orders. He was dramatically signing all these things on the executive orders, and yet somehow he feels bound by this. Right. The guy's a total fraud on this. And also maybe
the executive order on the Keystone, the Paris Accords, the Iran deal, all those things. One after the other. And the wall. Oh, yeah. I feel bound. I have to build a wall. No, he stopped it on day one.
Also, maybe you and I are obsessive over this, but if I were president of the United States, and if I knew that because of my screw-ups, there were hundreds of Americans and hundreds of our allies who could be held hostage or killed any moment, I wouldn't be going to Camp David. I wouldn't be going to Delaware. I wouldn't be visiting Queens. I mean, he should be spending every waking moment, because every day that goes by now is more valuable, because each day that goes by, the Taliban becomes more and more entrenched. This becomes, I hate to say it, old news, and these people are at the mercy that he should be doing everything possible. Not screwing around in Woodside or wherever the hell he's going to go today.
So this spineless imbecile, Joe Biden, he had this call with the president of Afghanistan back in July, and he told the guy, I want you to lie. Create a false perception that things are good, that the Taliban isn't really taking over as they are. So he knew it, and he told us otherwise. He lied to the public. But President Trump had no qualms about being clear-eyed about what the Taliban was capable of doing and what they eventually did. And this was after he dropped the mother of all bombs on the Taliban. This was Trump speaking in 2017, August of 2017. Listen to this.
The consequences of a rapid exit are both predictable and unacceptable. 9/11, the worst terrorist attack in our history, was planned and directed from Afghanistan, because that country was ruled by a government that gave comfort and shelter to terrorists. A hasty withdrawal would create a vacuum that terrorists, including ISIS and al-Qaeda, would instantly fill, just as happened before September 11th.
It was after he made the deal with the Taliban. He was clear-eyed about the prospects, what could happen. Again, according to Dean Popps, former Assistant Secretary of the Army, he was going to keep Bagram. That would have given air cover to the Taliban, to the Afghan National Army, and this didn't have to happen. This did not have to happen. And plus, the conditions changed, so he would not have exited. Again, they brought, as Popps said, they broke the deal a million different ways. So he would have adjusted on the fly, President Trump. He would not have done this, and would certainly not have pulled the military out, closed down Bagram, and leave hundreds, perhaps thousands of Americans and loyal Afghans stranded in Afghanistan.
And he would have let our allies know, because their lives are also put at risk. I mean, this is just it's shameful. Listen, anyone can make mistakes, but this was a self-inflicted wound by Joe Biden, not on himself. He's doing okay. He can go on vacation, but it's a wound against all Americans, especially those living in Afghanistan, and the families of the 13 brave Marines who were murdered.
And they're laughing at us all over the globe. They're laughing and they're angry. Our allies, Europeans, the Germans, they're angry. The Chinese and the Iranians and the Russians, they're laughing at us. No, it's a dishonorable stain, and won't soon be forgotten. I know the media wants to move on, but that's not going to happen. Lydia Serrani is next. There's a very interesting story about ivermectin. Ivermectin is a therapeutic used to treat COVID. Very interesting, folks. You may have heard about it during your vacation over the 3-day weekend or something like that. Joe Rogan is involved. We're going to explain it all to you. And a big hoax that was perpetrated on the American people the last 4 or 5 days. Lydia Serrani is all over it. She's coming right up.
This is Lydia Reports on 77 WABC. Here's Lydia Serrani.
This report is sponsored by LifeVac. One child dies every 5 days from choking. Your world can change in minutes. As a parent myself of little Julie, I wanted to protect my entire family. Go to lifevac.net. Use code WABC for 10% off. That's lifevac.net. We've been hearing, guys, a lot about ivermectin. First of all, I am so excited to be talking with my two favorite guys from Long Island.
All right.
Congressman Peter King and Bernie. I love talking to you guys. My two favorite Strong Island guys.
Lydia, I'm just living in Bernie's shadow, but I'm doing the best I can.
Hardly. But that's very nice of you to say, Lydia. And it's great.
Thank you, Lydia.
I know.
It's great to speak to you as well.
And And Bernie, usually people that are from the Bronx move up to Westchester, but you went to Long Island. And I know the congressman lived in Queens because that's the way it goes. And then you move out to Long Island.
Yeah.
And then people who are in Staten Island go to Jersey.
I was also proud for 20 years to represent Bernie in Congress. In fact, when he was missing during Sandy, I had Imus drive me crazy trying to find Bernie, even though some people weren't so sure if he really wanted to find him or not. But we did do that.
You know, he was actually checking on me to see if I was malingering, if I was really stranded. And it turns out I was, yeah. All those 9 years ago, that's right.
Well, the fake news media, once again, is perpetuating a lie on the American people. So ivermectin, it's a drug that's been approved since 1975 for use in humans. There's an animal version. And then there's a human version, right? And so the animal version, if humans ingest it, it can be deadly. And there have been instances where people that have COVID-19, doctors have used ivermectin on patients, the human version, and it has helped them. So unfortunately, there have been some people out there that have been using ivermectin, the horse version, and have gotten sick from it. Now, there was a Rolling Stone article last week that was posted, and they showed this picture of people lined up outside of supposedly a hospital, and it was saying that ICUs were overloaded because of people overdosing on ivermectin. And as a result, people with gunshot wounds and people that were actually sick from COVID-19 could not be treated because they had overdosed on ivermectin. They even quoted this doctor. Well, turns out it was a complete hoax. It was a lie. The doctor made it all up. The head of the hospital system said, this doctor doesn't even work at this hospital. He's with some kind of staffing company. We have not treated a single patient with any kind of ivermectin issues whatsoever. But that did not stop Joy Reid of MSNBC to continue perpetuating this hoax. Take a listen.
So things are clearly bad, but they're being made even worse by people who have refused to take the vaccine and instead are swallowing horse paste. The emergency room in one rural Oklahoma town is being overwhelmed by people overdosing on ivermectin, the horse deworming medication. It's gotten so bad that gunshot victims are having to wait to be treated.
Liar. Hey, Lydia, that's outrageous. I hadn't heard that audio until I saw you got it. Also, the Daily News, Business Insider, Newsweek, The Guardian, the Daily Mail, they all went with the story. And even more than that, before Joy Reid spewed that fake news nonsense, Rachel Maddow tweeted it out, and she still has the tweet up. And she's got like a couple of million followers. She still has the tweet up. Rolling Stone issued, quote, an update. And this is what they said. We've been unable to independently verify this report, unquote. Unable to verify it? A full-blown retraction and apology is what's necessary here. Not that you've been unable to verify it.
Well, and guess what? You know the picture that they use of the people lined up, the promotional photo used by Rolling Stone to depict the overflow of emergency room patients? It was an image from January at a church in Oklahoma City as residents waited to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. And the article is still up. It has not been flagged. And that article alone has had tens of thousands of retweets and likes. So right there, not only is it Rolling Stone, MSNBC, you have all of these media outlets, but you even have Twitter that has not taken it down. No, and yet the Hunter Biden story was flagged and it turned out to be true.
And they banned Alex Berenson and people who talk about the vaccine from Twitter as well. Hey, but it goes even deeper. Now, this is hydroxychloroquine all over again, except this time there's no Donald Trump involved. And who was the guy who started all this stuff? His name is Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a podcast, a very successful podcast host, and also the voice of the UFC, essentially, Ultimate Fighting Championships, Dana White's thing. And he's great, but it turns out he supported Bernie Sanders. He was the golden boy of the left. Then when Sanders dropped out and it was Biden, he supported Donald Trump. Then he badmouthed vaccines. And then he badmouthed wokeness. And so they hate his guts. And so he got COVID. Did Joe Rogan, and he took ivermectin. And this is what he said. Listen.
So I got back from the road and I just felt run down. Turns out I got COVID. So we immediately threw the kitchen sink at it. All kinds of meds, monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, Z-Pak, prednisone, everything. And I also got an NAD drip and a vitamin drip, and I did that 3 days in a row, and I feel great. I really only had one bad day. Crazy times we're living in, but a wonderful, heartfelt thank you to modern medicine.
So that was the genesis of the trashing ivermectin, because this guy, this bald-headed Trump supporter, actually was pumping it up. Other people surmise also that Big Pharma is coming out with a therapeutic of their own, and they don't want any competition because this is cheap. This stuff is cheap. But our colleague here, Lydia, Charlie Kirk, he tweeted this out. Oscar De La Hoya, fully vaccinated, still gets the virus, undergoes brutal hospitalization. He continues. Joe Rogan, not vaccinated, takes ivermectin and vitamins, doesn't undergo hospitalization, beats the virus, tests negative by the fourth day. And this is what's killing these people on the left, because, again, this bald-headed Trump supporter. And then the Babylon Bee also had a couple of funny headlines. Joe Rogan, quote, "I'm doing better, but still a little hoarse," unquote. and then these two more. And there's two more right here. Liberals feel sad for man dying of COVID, then happy after hearing he wasn't vaccinated, then sad again because he was an illegal immigrant. And finally, the Babylon Bee, Joe Rogan criticized as, quote unquote, anti-science for surviving COVID. So that's the whole, folks. If you missed the whole, you heard it peripherally, the ivermectin story. What's going? What is it? What the hell's going on here? Trump's not even. It started with Joe Rogan, and Lydia just laid it out with the Rolling Stone inspired media hoax. And again, they have yet to correct themselves.
You know, if I can just, give Lydia some more credit. Over the weekend, she's one of the only ones who mentioned the story that was really ignored by the mainstream media, about a mob attacked the 46th precinct in the Bronx.
Oh, yes.
They attacked it, and then they tried to put a car on fire with gasoline, a police car with cops inside. This should have been banner headlines everywhere.
Absolutely.
And yet no arrests were made. Cops basically told us, stand down, just sort of keep the riot. Can you imagine attacking a police station? And then trying to incinerate
It was
cops?
Black Lives Matter protests up there because it
was a lawful shoot of a guy with a gun.
A guy who shot at the cops.
Right.
And, the most disturbing part of it is after he pours the gasoline on it, instead of getting out of the van, the marked NYPD van, they just drove away. Why didn't they get out of the car and just beat the crap out of him and apprehend this guy?
He talked to more and more cops. They were under orders basically to stand down. It's terrible. I mean, even during the worst years, before Giuliani, the worst years, I can't imagine a police station, a precinct house being attacked. Yeah. And that should have been mass
in this case, it was the 46th precinct up there in Ryer Avenue.
So thank Lydia for bringing that out.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, you look at this video, right? And you see that the cops, they're not even in riot gear. They're wearing their button-down shirts. Clearly, they've been told, don't even wear the riot gear because you don't want to upset them. They're not armed. And while the mob is pushing at the barricades, the cops are like, you see them scared for their lives trying to push back. And the guy that poured the gasoline, this was like a 10-gallon jug. This was clearly planned. He wanted to set the police department on fire. Clearly, that was his objective there. And the fact that they didn't run the guy over, I mean, that's what they should have done. And it would have been 100% justifiable. But this is all comes from the top. This comes from Mayor Bill de Blasio. And this is in the Fordham section of the Bronx. This was a justified shooting. And once again, BLM coming out in full force when it's a justifiable shooting. This guy was in a shootout with the police. They were defending their lives. But when a kid gets shot in the head by a gangbanger, they are nowhere to be found. And that's why you have to listen to WABC radio, because here you will hear the truth. You're not going to hear it anywhere else.
Listen, they all got away with it. Nobody was arrested. Not one person was arrested. In the meantime, this Proud Boys leader, he's set to begin a 5-month prison term for burning a BLM flag in D.C. And again, the white supremacist Proud Boys leader, what's his name? Enrique Tarrio. He's Afro-Cuban. It ain't white supremacist. He just doesn't like BLM. But either way, he's doing 5 months. And the guy that dumped the gasoline on the police van, He's smoking a bone somewhere. He's just waking up right now, waking and baking right now. Hey, Lydia, we're out of time. You're great. Thanks very much.
Thank you, guys. Yes, and to John Katzmatidis' point, the guy who threw the two lawyers that threw a Molotov cocktail on a police vehicle, nothing has happened to them yet, and they still have their law licenses, and Rudy Giuliani doesn't. And you got the Capitol rioters. They're facing years behind bars. Many of them are still there, yet you got people that can pour gasoline on a cop car, and they could vandalize St. Patrick's Cathedral. I mean, it is just, the world is upside down.
You can smack an old Asian woman around and knock her to the subway tracks, and it turns out that 4 days later, 4 days earlier, you did the same thing, and all you got was a desk appearance ticket. That's New York. That's the United States. That's 2021. That's Black Lives Matter. That's defund the police, ladies and gentlemen. Lydia Serrani, every day at 5 o'clock. Do you have a sponsor, Lydia?
Yes, guys, sorry. This report is sponsored by LifeVac. When child dies every 5 days from choking, your world, it can change just like that. And as a parent myself, I had little Julia. I wanted to protect all of my loved ones. I went to LifeVac.net. Use code WABC for 10% off. That's lifevac.net.
Thanks, Lydia. Every day with Cats at Night at 5 o'clock. She is terrific.
Bernie and Sid. 77 WABC.
Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show. Ladies and gentlemen, WABC is supporting the Tunnel to Towers 5K walk run here in New York City, and I need your help. Help us remember those lost on 9/11 as we retrace FDNY firefighter Stephen Siller's final footsteps together. That's right. I'm going to be making this trek that this brave firefighter made on September 26th. I'm going to have my own team. That's right. You can support my team by making a donation, or you can join my team at the walk, and I'll see you there. It's going to be Sunday, September 26th at 9:30. Please support my team for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's how you do it. Go to wabcradio.com/walk and click on my photo to donate or register to walk today. That's wabcradio.com/walk. Thank you for your support. I look forward to joining you there as we help America's heroes. And I am joined today by, of course, Sid Rosenberg is out for Rosh Hashanah. Happy New Year to all my Jewish brethren. By the Honorable Congressman Peter King from Long Island. It's great to have you. You're so much fun.
Great to be here. And, you mentioned that about Tunnel to Towers. Frank Siller is just a great human being. He's one of the he runs these different events. He's involved, yet he's low-key at the same time. And he's made such a commitment to 9/11 out of his brother and, all the brave men and women who were killed that day. If we had more patriots like Frank Siller, we'd be in great shape in this country.
Absolutely. And there's no better charity, none, than Tunnel to Towers, really. And he's making that walk, of course, from D.C. to Shanksville to Ground Zero here. And, so that walk happens through the towers. Through the tunnel, on September 26th at 9:30, and I'll be leading the charge with my team right here.
Can't ask for more. By the way, I mentioned before about my boxing trainer, Chris Cardona, being in the movie Worth about 9/11 families. Now, Chris is a sadistic guy, and he wants one more mention, otherwise he's going to break my nose this Sunday in a sparring session. He was in the movie with Stanley Tucci, was also a co-star in the movie with Michael Keaton, and Chris was saying what a great guy Stanley Tucci was to work with. I really, it's on Netflix, Worth. It really brings back the horror and the hope of 9/11 and what those individual families went through and how they try to get compensation, but you can never really be compensated for the loss they suffered. So it's Worth. It's on Netflix, and it's Michael Keaton, Stanley Tucci, and my boxing trainer, Chris Cardona.
I like it.
Chris, that's enough. Now leave me alone, okay?
I'm going to check that out my damn self. Hey, listen, you and I talked way earlier this morning about the commemoration for 9/11 is Saturday. Of course, it'll be 20 years. And it occurred to me that you always see this one picture of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in the dirty, off-colored T-shirt. He's all hairy and like he just woke up. Kind of like what Joy Behar might look like if you saw her at 7 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying?
That's a thought. Wow.
So but here's the point, is that we're coming up on 20 years, and this guy has not been tried yet. He's still down in Gitmo, living the life. He's probably got Netflix. He's probably already checked out that show that you just promoted. I mean, when does he go on trial? What is happening with that? Is it going to be a military trial? I know there was going to be a civilian trial at one point.
I think it has to be a military trial. And by the way, don't believe any of the stories about how these guys are maltreated down at Gitmo. I was down at Gitmo. I saw Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. These guys get 3 meals a day. They even art classes available for these guys.
Oh, my gosh.
They go out, they walk around outside, and they're spitting at the guards and carrying on. No, these are, and I saw actually Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. When I looked into his cell, he was sitting there in his cell. It was like it wasn't that bad a place. And nothing like Rikers Island, nothing like Sing Sing, nothing like that at all. These guys, if you're going to be a prisoner, here's a place to go. And he was there praying. I guess he was praying that, I don't know, maybe he'd get a civilian trial or be acquitted.
I mean, well, why isn't he should have been excited, 13, 14 years ago after
easily,
he was captured?
There's no doubt he's guilty, but if he gets a civilian trial, you have this whole thing, you have to have witnesses come in. How are you going to find the witnesses? How are you going to, after all these years? So to me, a military tribunal, they would have the leeway they need to conduct a fair trial, but also a trial that makes common sense. He should have been tried. He should have been executed years ago. This man is a mass murderer, and yet if you listen to the mainstream media, they talk about these poor guys being held down at Guantanamo, how this is an embarrassment to the United States. The embarrassment to the United States is that these guys haven't been executed already.
Absolutely right. Now, listen, we're going to get into more Joe Biden in Afghanistan. Look,
but can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Mike come in, great guy, took a great picture of us. I asked an hour ago if Lauren could come in and do something. She's sitting around doing nothing. The least she could have done is take a picture. Mike come in, took great photos, by the way. I really got to thank him. He's at least somebody he's really working hard.
That's our phone screener, Mike Garcia. He's working hard. So is Justin Ellick, our board op, who's doing a great job with the sports. But Lauren is preparing for her newscast, Congressman King. She's not a photographer. She's not a...
she can't do two things at once?
She's not an intern. She's not a gopher. She's a newswoman.
Oh, I see. Because I'm at events, I take photos of everyone. No one pulls rank.
News person.
A news
person
right.
is probably more politically correct.
Right. And again, Joe Biden's going to Manville, New Jersey today.
Personville.
They're going to change the name of that town after today, guaranteed. So be careful what you wish for. Look, so we're going to get into Biden. He fell asleep in the middle of talking to the Israeli prime minister. He also checked his watch. We talked about the media and hoaxes and all. The media completely, totally ignored that whole looking at the watch thing. Again, imagine if that was President Trump. Or imagine if President Trump called his top aide, a black top aide, if he called him that boy over there. I mean, all these things. We're going to get into all that. Also, speaking of prisons, they're actually going to do it again. They're going to release inmates early from Rikers Island because of a correction officer shortage. So, folks, if you thought things were bad, now they're about to get worse on the Bernie and Sid Show with Congressman Peter King.
Stay informed with Bernie and Sid in the morning on 77 WABC.
Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show with Congressman Peter King in for Sid Rosenberg. Happy New Year, my Jewish brethren. I mentioned earlier, Congressman King, I got into the U.S. Open, and then I was sadly, I watched it with my wife. My wife was out there, Carol. She was out 3-4 days in a row. She loves it. We're watching it. I'm into it big time, and I was ambushed. And I love some of the new players, the no names. Doesn't matter. It was great tennis. Leylah Fernandez, she plays today. Then I was ambushed by the U.S. Open. There's no politics. A commercial comes on, and they have some F the police messages during the commercial. And I was like, I was totally oblivious to politics until they ambushed me with the commercial. So the shame on them for that. But I did know there was a couple of big stories that went national. Naomi Osaka got beat by this girl, Leylah Fernandez.
Right.
It was terrific. The beating that the way Leylah Fernandez played. She's 18 years old. Her words of inspiration, the way she speaks, her composure at 18 years old, and she didn't care about Naomi Osaka's feelings. I don't care. I came here to kick her ass, and I did, and that's that. And then I found out that this girl Sloane Stevens she was talking about how she's being harassed online, big time. About how racial slurs, but also people want to hurt her, break her leg, stuff like that. And I guess Osaka gets some of that. And this other girl, a white girl yesterday, her name is Esther Kirby or something like that, or Rachel Kirby, whatever. She said the same thing. And it turns out, I understand that most of these people that are angry at these players. They're angry at them for losing because they had big money on it. It's not racial at all. It's not animated by or motivated by any of that type of. It's motivated by these gamblers who these people they bet on the players and they lost, and that's what they're angry about, according to what I've read. So I don't know this gambling stuff that it's legalized now. All these players are on the hook, I guess, right now. Let's go to Esther. That's where I got the name. Esther is in the BX. Congressman King. Good morning, Esther.
Good morning, Bernie. Missed you. I'm glad you're back. I am calling about Joe Biden. He should not be at the 9/11 memorial on Saturday. The only ones who should be there should be the ones who actually dealt with the attack. It should be our mayor, Rudy Giuliani. It should be Pataki, Governor Pataki, and it should be Mayor Bloomberg, who were the people that were there.
I like it, Esther. I think that's a great point, and especially after the dishonor that he bestowed on this country in the last couple of weeks, he really should not be there.
Now, to me, the president has undone all of the glory of 9/11 and the valor, the heroism. And to me, if he would, do the right thing, he'd stay home, but he'll be there.
Yeah, well, we'll get into him a little bit more in the next segment, but he really is he's trash, he's garbage on the Bernie and Sid Show.
We are New York. Bernie and Sid in the morning. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show, heard everywhere on that 77 WABC app, simulcast out on Eastern Long Island, News Talk 107.1 FM in the Hamptons and points east. And also we're live streamed on WABCRadio.com. You can look at us, check us out, check out that full head of hair on Congressman Peter King, who is sitting in for Sid Rosenberg. A lot of people, it's the first day back to work, to school. I know New York City schools don't start until a week from yesterday, but also it's a down day. But if there's any consolation, ladies and gentlemen who are listening in your car or whatever, we're all in it together. It all sucks for everybody this first day. It's like the end of summer. It kind of is. It's a little bit of a downer.
You're all in together. That's what they said on the Titanic too. We're all in it together.
Yeah, you're right. But listen, I said it earlier.
Life is good. We're alive, we're breathing, we're healthy. That's
the only thing worse than waking up on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning after Memorial Day weekend and having to go to work is waking up on that Tuesday after Labor Day weekend and not having a job. That is a bad feeling.
Yeah.
That is a horrible feeling. Believe me when I tell you, folks, I've had it. And it stinks. So hang in there.
Hope you don't lose your job after today for having me on. My God.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, it could go either way at this point. I would say we're on the fence right now. It depends on how the next hour goes.
Oh, my God. Okay.
You've been great. Congressman King, you've been
try not to screw it up too bad. Okay.
You have been terrific. Look, I mentioned earlier that they're going to close Rikers Island. President Biden is coming to town today as well. They're not going to close Rikers Island. They're going to release inmates early. In de Blasio's attempt to close it, he's not hiring enough corrections officers. They're being treated like crap, so they quit and left and right. And he's going to release these prisoners. They were going to do it last Thursday, but the floods, the storm stopped it, the Thursday thing. So they're going to do it, I believe, today or tomorrow.
Releasing the prisoners has worked so well in the past. My God, this has been what a disaster this has been. But the other side of it is, I don't know why anyone would be a correction officer. It's bad enough being a cop, but a correction officer, you're in there with them. You're unarmed. And if you respond at all, right away you're brought up in charges. You have to put up with all this abuse. To me, it's a tough job. I give them credit, but wow. It is
brutal.
It really
brutal.
is. It really is.
And you're right. Don't call them guards. Call them corrections officers because they don't want to be called guards. And you're essentially in prison. You're not armed, and you're in mingling amongst the population.
You're outnumbered any time. I don't know, it's 20, 30 to 1. I tell you, it's brutal stuff. Now, these CEOs do a great job, and they don't get the credit they deserve. But you feel that bail reform, which, by the way, is a big issue in the Nassau County DA's race, with Andy Donnelly running against Todd
Oh,
Kaminsky,
yeah.
who was the author and the architect and the godfather of the bail reform law, which has been an absolute disaster. But you have the bail reform law, you have letting people out early, and you see why the crime rate, and plus the whole woke attitude that cops have to go out with their hands tied behind their backs. We see why there's such an increase in violent crime across the country, and especially here in New York.
Yeah, you have one particular incident that caught my eye over the weekend. You had an old Asian woman. She was punched in the head by a guy who, trust me, folks.
That was your white supremacist?
That's exactly. You know me like the back of your hand. He was not a white supremacist. He was not, folks. Remember Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? They try to make this anti-Asian stuff all about what's white people doing it. No, it was not a white supremacist. But the point is, 4 days earlier, he did the same thing. He cold cock sucker punched an old woman. I don't know if she fell on their tracks like this one did, but he was released with a desk appearance ticket, and that was a violent crime. And he was released with a desk appearance ticket, no bail. Thank you, Todd Kaminsky, out in Nassau County. Nassau County residents, tell your friends this election is coming up in November. Todd Kaminsky is responsible for this Asian lady getting sucker punched and knocked onto the subway tracks. Todd Kaminsky is. Don't let him become Nassau County DA. Go out and vote.
And vote for Ann Donnelly, the Republican conservative candidate. She's a over 30-year experienced prosecutor, great record. The cops love her. People who understand criminal justice are supporting her. She's a career prosecutor, not a politician. I can say I've been in politics all these years. I never met Ann Donnelly to this year. She's totally out of politics, but she's a committed public servant, federal, great prosecutor.
Yeah.
Does a terrific job.
By the way,
she's just total experience.
She's not a politician, but she's great at her job.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, you have to be flashy. And
her job was locking up bad guys, and she did it.
And she did it. Exactly right. Now, as we speak, there are 6 planes on the tarmac at an airport in Afghanistan reportedly carrying American citizens, and the Taliban will not let these planes take off. So, and they've been there for a couple of days. So could you just imagine being on this plane, the heat, the humidity, and, the lack of food, the thirst or whatever, hunger.
Well,
it's like Frontier Airlines or Southwest Air.
Yeah, like when you're sitting at LaGuardia or JFK and your flight's delayed for 2 hours, people are going nuts.
Right.
And you're here in your own hometown. Can you imagine if you're in Afghanistan and your life is on the line?
Essentially, they're being held hostage right now. Now, 4 Americans made it to across the border to Pakistan, thanks to some military veterans. And according to the guy who organized it, his name is Corey Mills, the State Department is trying to take credit for it. And he said they had nothing to do with it. In fact, they were in the way. We got these people out. It was a California mother and 3 kids. And, of course, there were, I understand there were like 20-something. There were 20-something kids. Maybe it's down to under 20 now that 3 are out. I don't know. Either way, that's where it stands now. And that's all because of, what this Gold Star mother called Joe Biden. I'm going to play it in a second. I won't use her words. I'll let her recount what she said or let you hear what she said. Anyway, Joe Biden tried to pretend that he was a Gold Star father. He stood there and he checked his watch while the caskets came in at Dover Air Force Base. He checked his watch, and the mainstream media ignored that, completely ignored that. But not only that, when he was talking to the families, he was very disrespectful. He kept talking about his son, Beau, who died, from cancer long after he was out of the military. So Joe Biden is not a Gold Star father, but he tried to play himself off as one. And it offended the people. Of course, the watch checking incident did as well. But one of the Gold Star mothers, she said this. Take a listen.
Genius child, an IQ of 156. He could have done anything he wanted to do in the military, and he chose to be a Marine sniper. But I never thought in a million years he would die for nothing, because a feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap decided he wanted a photo op on September 11th. Every Democrat that's listening, you did this to my son to prop up a disgusting human being.
A disgusting human being. And that's what he is. He's trash. He's garbage. Miranda Devine has a great column about his lying. Matter of fact, let me grab it.
By the way, Miranda Devine is terrific. Absolutely.
She's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's called Tree of Lies for Shameless Joe. And he lied. That phone call to the president of Afghanistan, where he told the president of Afghanistan to lie about the situation in Afghanistan. He knew the Taliban was on the march. They were taking over. And he said, the perception is bad. You got to lie about this. So, yeah, he wanted this August 31st deadline so he could have that Gold Star mom whose son died a week and a half ago in Afghanistan at the airport. He wanted that photo op for Saturday and say, yeah, well, we ended the war. And he called it an enormous success. As a matter of fact, play Joe Biden 4. Just listen to this mealy-mouthed moron. Listen to him.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals.
Bravely was due to the bravery of our soldiers. I mean, and of course, nobody catches on to that. The 25th Amendment needs to be, and I go even further than that, Congressman King, as I said earlier, a military tribunal and the harshest sentence that they could mete out.
You sound like my daughter Erin, who's always very moderate-minded and all that, but she's calling for a military tribunal for Joe Biden.
Absolutely, what he did was shameful, shameless, whatever you want to use. And he's the worst president. I said this a couple of months ago, but he's now. There's no dispute. He's the worst president in the history of the United States. Period, bar none. Whatever Jimmy Carter did. Stuff happened to him. With Joe Biden, he created this stuff. He created the border crisis. He's creating the inflation. He created the lousy unemployment numbers by extending the unemployment benefits unnecessarily for like 6 months. They just expired yesterday. He created all this stuff, and of course, he sided with the Black Lives Matter creeps. And he caused part of the crime by ignoring it at the president. He's just a liar. And anyway, Miranda Devine writes, a tree of lies for shameless Joe. Joe Biden lied about being at the Tree of Life synagogue just last week.
Which was a horrible massacre. This isn't just like some small incident that happened. I mean, if you were there, you knew it. If you weren't there, you knew you weren't there. This isn't like confusing one synagogue with another. It was a horrible, terrible tragedy. And he, again, tries to inject himself into these horrible tragedies.
And he's done it repeatedly over the years. You had that lie. You had also, when in 1987, I was the smartest guy in my class at Harvard. That was a lie. Then, of course, that same year, he had to drop out of the presidential race. His whole campaign was based on a lie. She writes this. So Biden posing as a civil rights activist, talking about the Tree of Life thing, is as authentic as his brilliant white teeth and hair plugs, or his devout Catholicism while promoting abortion, or his claim to be the poorest man in Congress while he and his family live like he's just a bad guy and a liar.
All she admitted was when Barack Obama started running for president and Joe Biden said there aren't that many clean, articulate blacks.
Oh, yeah.
God,
talking about racist. And also his campaign was based on a lie, which was, I decided to get into the race when I heard Donald Trump say that Nazis were very fine people. That's when I decided to get into the race. And he lied, of course, about Hunter's laptop. He knew it was real. He lied that just before the campaign, and the media abided that lie.
I don't blame him for lying because he knew the media would cover for him. I mean, that was terrible.
Right. And so that's why I say, Congressman King, that the election was rigged before November 3rd. Because of that, because the media and he were able to cover that up and lie. That's what I call rigging an election. Maybe not with the ballots in that case, but that's still part and parcel of rigging the election.
That's why I wish President Trump would focus on that part of it. And so, because that was, you'd think if everything had come out against Hunter Biden the way it should have come out, if so much that was covered up by the media had not been covered up, President Trump would have been reelected. You're right. That is where rigging occurred. I wish the president would focus on that so that people would be more alert. Also, the disrespect you show for the coffins. My wife Rosemary and I have gone to any number, unfortunately, of funerals or wakes for soldiers killed in Iraq, Afghanistan, and you can hear a pin drop. Everyone at those services and ceremonies are so somber, so sad, really. Yeah. And I couldn't imagine anybody looking at the watch. I always say to my wife, too, hey, if any of these parents want to give us a hard time, they're entitled to do it. Thank God they haven't. But still, it's just, to me, and I'm sure you've been in 9/11 commemorations. Again, you can hear a pin drop. Everyone is so almost traumatized by it. Can you imagine looking at your watch to see how much longer do I have to...
I'm telling you, look...
how much longer do I have to look at these coffins coming by?
Viscerally, my feeling was I just wanted to, once again, punch him in the face. That's the way I felt. Let's go to, let's see, Drew is in White Plains. Drew, you're on the Bernie and Sid Show with Congressman Peter King. Good morning, Drew.
So a couple of things I wanted to touch base on. I really wanted Peter's opinion on this, too, is the redistricting. I don't see how Malliotakis is going to survive this redistricting with Andrew Cuomo out. Kathy Hochul made a statement the other day. She's a loyal Biden Democrat. And when they asked her, will she contribute to helping Democrats pick up seats in the Congress with redistricting, she simply said yes. She's a loyal Biden Democrat.
Yeah, she was. You know, Drew. She said further that I want to further Joe Biden's agenda. Is what she said. I read that as well, and I wanted to throw up.
And I don't see Malliotakis surviving that. You know, I try to just give an honest opinion. I don't try to sway either way. And it's so funny that you're talking about. I want Peter's opinion on this. Peter, why the hell has your party slumped in Westchester so much? I mean, that's a place where the population is over 1 million people. If you're going to go into a gubernatorial race and you're going to get your butt kicked in New York City and Westchester County, Democrats don't need to win anywhere else. I mean, I look at old pictures, Peter, and I see you with Jim. I forgot how to pronounce his last name, from New Rochelle. He was such a great county.
All right, good. Well, let Congressman King respond.
Yeah, first of all, you're right. There's no hope to win New York State unless you win. Republicans have to win big in Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, and Rockland. And Rockland has slipped over the last few. Listen, Rob Estorino, I thought was a great county executive. How he lost, I'll never know. To me, he was on the job. I think Republicans have to do more of the grassroots work. Listen, people criticize machines and organizations. We have to get back to doing grassroots work. The average person living in a neighborhood, the hardworking person, has to realize we're their party, and we have to get that message out. We have to get away from the country clubs, get away from just hanging out with the rich bankers, because they'll sell you out in a second. We are the party of middle-income people. We got to get back to our roots. As far as Nicole Malliotakis, I would never sell her short. She's a tough campaigner. I know with the redistricting, they're going to try and hurt us around the state. It's up to us to start the fight now, get out there, and really, really fight hard. There's no listen. Thank God, Nassau County, the last local elections took back all the seats we had lost, and that has to be the first step back. And we can't make excuses anymore. We got to get out there, and with Joe Biden,
got to vote,
and have to vote. And people want to express how they feel about Joe Biden and Andrew Cuomo and Bill de Blasio. No matter where you live in New York, come out and vote Republican. That's how you send the signal.
And I would extend that to Kathy Hochul, who she's no better than any of these hardcore leftists. She picked as her lieutenant governor as the leader of the Republican Party in New York State said, I forget his name. He says that
Nick Langworthy, yeah.
Nick Langworthy, he is a defund the police radical leftist. That's who she picked to be lieutenant governor, a guy who voted for the no cash bail law. Plus, she extended the eviction moratorium till January 15th in New York State. That screws landlords. She also says that if she could, she would extend the unemployment enhancement bonus to $300 to every New Yorker, but she can't because she's bound by law that the state is running a deficit. So under that condition, the state is not allowed to extend to give out the $300, if you know what I'm saying. Joe Biden said, hey, you can use my COVID money. And she says, no, I can't. We're bound because we're running an $11 billion deficit here in New York State. So she's a radical leftist. Plus, one more thing, her husband, she was appointed lieutenant governor in, I believe, 2014. Her husband quit his federal prosecutor job to become an Albany casino lobbyist in 2015. That's what he is right now, an Albany casino lobbyist. That's former lieutenant governor, current governor of New York, Kathy Hochul. Her husband has ties to casino lobbying, quit his job to get the lobbyist. So you talk about a swamp. Albany is as big a swamp as Washington, D.C.
Let me just say, I worked with Kathy Hochul in Congress. She was very moderate. She was great to work with. I'm really disappointed that she picked this guy, Benjamin, to be lieutenant governor. He is anti-cop all the way. Not just defund the cops. Across every anti-cop piece of legislation. She signed on to it. He signed on to it. I'm disappointed she picked him. As far as her husband, in fairness to him, he was a very good prosecutor. He prosecuted the Lackawanna Five, whoever they were. And so anyway, but let me just say that Kathy, I thought she would be much more centrist than she is. I'm disappointed.
Right, but she's no different than Pelosi, Schumer, Gillibrand. They're all afraid of the loudmouths and the malcontents that might show up outside her residence with a bullhorn, or she's afraid of getting primaried by these radical leftists, all of them. And so they cave to the radical left. So I'd rather have the radical leftists so I know who I'm dealing with. I'd rather have Sean Donovan. I'd rather have Jamal Bowman. I know who I'm dealing with instead of Kathy Hochul, who looks harmless, like a kitten, like a nice old lady. I'm not buying it, and she's as bad as any of the rest of them.
Yeah, again, when I worked with her, she did an outstanding, not outstanding, but a good, solid job. But now she's really veered to the left. Democrats are petrified of the left wing of their party, which Andrew Cuomo was. That's why he went so far to the left. And then, they were the first to turn on him and try to kill him. I mean, last time I spoke to him, he said, these left-wing people are crazy. But he was the guy who encouraged them. He thought he'd buy them off.
He signed the no-cash bail law.
Absolutely. Buy them off. By the way, I just got speaking of Joe Biden, I just got a text from our good friend Vito Fossella in Staten Island. When do the Afghan collusion impeachment proceedings begin? Which is true. I mean, you figure one harmless call of the president of Ukraine involving nothing, things about impeachment of President Trump, this guy Biden is making a totally corrupt call with the president of Afghanistan, telling him to lie, which ended up costing American lives.
Sadly, we have to wait till 2022, 2023, really, when they take office, if we do regain the House, if they don't steal that election on the Bernie and Sid show with Congressman Peter King.
This is the news and talk station of New York with Bernie and Sid in the morning. What is going on? Real New York, 77 WABC.
What you want?
Baby, I got it. What you need? You know I got Back here on the Bernie and Sid show. Sitting here with, I'm honored to be sitting here with former Congressman Peter King, who's in for Sid Rosenberg, who's out for the New Year, the Jewish New Year. Happy New Year to all my Jewish brothers.
Happy New Year, Sid, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go right to the phones, ladies and gentlemen. John is in Staten Island. Mike, John, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning there, Bernie. What I was going to say is, I just want to contact two points quick on Biden disaster. Here in America, you know what we have? The fentanyl crossing with communist China. We have our border guys and our troops babysitting kids instead of catching the guys getting the drugs across. Michael K. Williams, great actor, dead. Heroin overdose with fentanyl. Fuquan Johnson, a comedian, and Enrique Coletti, black and Spanish guys, both dead from fentanyl. Where's the Black Lives Matter and Latinx people on this?
Hey, John, you know that you make a very good point. I made it earlier on the show about Michael K. Williams. Maybe now, I don't know. I doubt it, but this is what's happening. I personally have somebody within my family who OD'd over the summer from fentanyl, and it's coming across the border in just unprecedented amounts because the border's wide open. Because they're changing diapers, they're feeding people, and all. And
they're not being tested for COVID when they come across the border.
That's true. That's very true. But all the rapists and the terrorists and the fentanyl, that they're all coming in other areas because these guys are distracted. I mean, it's a classic distraction technique, and the fentanyl has made its way up into the interior of the United States, and it's killing people in record numbers.
Yep.
And Joe Biden again. Another self-inflicted wound by Joe Biden is doing it. And if Michael K. Williams doesn't help shine a light on it, I don't know if anything will. I guess maybe somebody even higher profile than Michael K. Williams. Let's go to Scott in Connecticut, ladies and gentlemen, the Nutcake State. Good morning, Scott.
Hey, good morning, Bernie. Welcome back. Missed you. And the Honorable Peter King, I asked you to consider running in Connecticut because I can't recall when we last had a great representative. But quickly, I caught this weekend on this week with George Stephanopoulos, the Sunday shows, which I rarely watch. The Roundtable I like to listen to, and I saw Charlie Gibson and Martha Raddatz. And Martha commented on the American people didn't know how bad it was in Afghanistan, and I almost had a Bo Dietl rant, or I did. I'm like, well, that's because you people don't report and tell us. And you don't even hold Biden accountable from what he said in July. When are people going to realize that we're not getting the news? I will listen to the roundtable when people like Britt Humer on there. I haven't seen Charlie Gibson in forever. I thought he's a respectable guy, but the talking heads now, it's a waste of time to watch these shows. Anyway, that's my point.
Scott, it's a great point. I've been making it forever. I've stopped watching the Sunday morning shows, F the Nation, Meet the Putz, and especially that little squirrely Stephanopoulos and that gang with Martha Radish. All of them. They run cover. They're part of the reason why we have this disastrous administration, because they ran cover for him, obviously.
Cover. And Scott, for about a week or so, they did cover Afghanistan, but then they just cut it off, and now it's barely mentioned. And the fact is, the crisis is worse now than it ever was. We have Americans being held behind the border. It's terrible.
When Joe Biden, in July, Joe Biden did lie. He clearly lied, and this is right around the same time he had the conversation with the president of Afghanistan, Ghani, and told him that, listen, Ghani, this place is going to hell, your country. We need to present, and you know it and I know it, we need to present a better picture. Even if it's not true, we need to present a better picture. That's the call you were talking about. Yep. That is an impeachable call. In fact, again, a military tribunal is what I'm going with. But this is what Joe Biden said in July. Despite telling Ghani that the situation is horrible in Afghanistan, he lied to us.
Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No. It is not, because you have the Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world.
Liar.
And an Air Force against something like 75,000 Taliban.
Listen, he knew
it is not inevitable.
It's not inevitable. And, of course, the reason why it became inevitable was clearly he evacuated Bagram Air Base, so they lost their air cover. They always were dependent on the United States for air cover.
And Ghani told that to Biden.
Right.
They have to have the air cover.
And President Trump, by the way, according to Dean Pops, who I listen to on Cats at Night, he said that Trump's plan was to keep Bagram Air Base open. That's what according to Dean Pops, former general in the United States Army and former, he was also
Assistant Secretary
of the Army as well. He said Trump was going to keep Bagram Air Base open. So anyway, he was lying is the point. And so, Scott, to your point, they will not play that on the Sunday shows and call Joe Biden out. You have to listen to us. Yeah, that's what you have to do. Stop watching Sunday morning fake news shows, because you're not going to get anything out of them except frustration. And listen, we need a caller, Congressman King, to play Beat Bernie, 1-800-848-9222. That's right, I'm back, and that's back. 1-800-848-WABC to play Beat Bernie.
Now, it's time to Beat Bernie.
It's time to beat Bernie.
Sponsored by Fearless Boilers and Pavilion Tankless Water Heaters.
You think you can beat Bernie?
Good luck.
It's time to beat Bernie.
It is that time, and with Sydney celebrating the Jewish holiday, the Jewish New Year, it's Matt Meany filling in here. Sydney will be back on Thursday to his hosting duties, but I will take it here today. And Peerless Boilers sponsors the Peerless Boilers Beat Bernie contest, and Pavilion Tankless Water Heaters. Go to peerlessboilers.com or paviliontankless.com for a dealer near you. Peerless Boilers, America's best-built boilers. And let's get right to it today. We have Jack. Where the hell is Jack from? Jack, where are you from, brother?
I'm from Metuchen, New Jersey.
Very good, Metuchen, New Jersey. Any damage out there from the storm we had?
No, thank God.
Okay, very good. What do you do out in Metuchen, New Jersey?
I'm a retired personal property appraiser.
Whoa, okay, very good. So you check out like people's foundations and whatnot, or what do you?
No, contents.
Okay, gotcha. Very good. Well, congratulations on being retired. Hopefully you've been studying up for this Beat Bernie contest. All right, you know how it goes. 5 questions for you, same 5 for Bernie. If you beat Bernie, you get more questions right than Bernie, you get a $100 gift card and a Barry House coffee mug, which sponsors Bernie and Sid in the Morning. That's the official coffee of Bernie and Sid in the Morning. All right, let's get right to it. Number 1, Jack from Metuchen, New Jersey. 2013 saw the first United States Congress with 2 African-American senators, when Mo Cowan of Massachusetts served with Tim Scott of what state?
South Carolina.
Very good. 1 for 1. Number 2, during the 1976 presidential campaign, Ronald Reagan said, quote, "We built it, we paid for it, it's ours, and we're going to keep it," in reference to what artificial waterway?
Panama Canal.
Good, 2 for 2. Number 3, on what continent will you find the country Africa? Oh, my God. Never mind. That's a botched one. Egypt. Okay. Okay. I got to give you that. I screwed that up. Go ahead. Give me a bang, Justin. I clearly did not have my Wheaties this morning. I'll give you that one. All right. Number 4. You're 3 for 3, Jack. Number 4. The presidential retreat, today known as Camp David, was first named what by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt after a James Hilton novel?
Don't know.
Wrong, you two-legged bag of anthrax should be Jesus.
You know, Peking does it. It's
Shangri-La.
Shangri-La.
Yeah,
There you go. There you go. All right, let's end it on a high note here, Jack. There are 2 Ivy League schools that are located in New York. One is in New York City, the other in Ithaca, New York. Name them both.
Cornell in Ithaca, Columbia in New York.
Very good. 4 for 5. Not bad, Jack. Hang on there. We're going to get Bernie back in here, and I know he's going to get the Africa one right, so you're lucky that I gave you that. But clearly did not have my Wheaties this morning. Thanks, Jack. Again, this is the Peerless Boilers Beat Bernie contest brought to you by Peerless Boilers and Pavilion Tankless Water Heaters. Go to paviliontankless.com or peerlessboilers.com for a dealer near you. Peerless Boilers, America's best built boilers. Bernard,
he gave your opponent a freebie, just so you know.
I did.
Thanks for looking out for me. Thanks for looking out, Congressman King. Because sometimes sometimes that happens. And they don't tell me
the rule. Very good. Jack from McCutcheon went 4 for 5, and the one that I did give him, I know for 100% you'll get. But nonetheless, let's get to it. 2013 saw the first United States Congress with 2 African American senators when Mo Cowan of Massachusetts served with Tim Scott of what state?
South Carolina.
Very good, very good. 1 for 1. Number 2, during the 1976 presidential campaign, Ronald Reagan said, quote, "We built it, we paid for it, it's ours, and we're going to keep it," end quote, in reference to what artificial waterway?
The Panama Canal.
All right. On what continent will you find the country Egypt?
That would be Africa.
And that was the one that I mistakenly gave Jack. Nonetheless, 3 for 3, Burn. Number 4.
Asia is not too far to the east from Egypt, but go ahead.
Correct. Absolutely. Sometimes get confused. The number 4. The presidential retreat, today known as Camp David, was first named what by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt after a James Hilton novel?
That would be Fantasyland would be wrong. Shangri-La would be the right answer.
On the ball. And finally, to wrap it up and potentially beat Jack here, Byrne, there are 2 Ivy League schools that are located in New York. One is in New York City, the other in Ithaca. Name both of them.
That would be Columbia and Cornell.
Didn't miss a beat, Byrne.
Is that it?
Back to it, correct.
The man's a genius.
That's it. Is that it?
Come on.
Yes,
come on.
Jack, sorry, did not get. You're not going to get the $100 gift card to the Barry House Coffee Mug. We will send you some swag, which you could also get at the WABC Radio Store. People, go out there, WABCRadiostore.com. But Jack, it's enough for me. Say hello to Bernard McGurk.
What's up, Jack?
Bernie, how are you? It's a pleasure to be beaten by the great Bernie McGurk.
You're kind to say. So, Jack,
I have something for you. You and Congressman King.
Yes, sir.
Please go right ahead, Jack.
I was listening to earlier when they were talking about John O'Neill.
Oh, yeah.
There was a wonderful, wonderful PBS frontline called The Man Who Knew.
Yep.
2002, episode 19. You can see it online. It's well worth an hour and a half.
Wow, that's
a fabulous, fabulous accounting of John O'Neill.
And he was the guy that took on the bureaucracy, too. I mean, he did it his own way, and he was right. He was right all the time.
If I may, Jack and Congressman King, Bo Dietl sent me this book. It's entitled 9/11 Remembered, 20 years later. It's by this retired NYPD. His name is Bob Martin. He was a deputy inspector, Bob Martin, and 9/11 remembered 20 years later. And he dedicates it to a former Marine, NYPD, who died at the, in 2001, 9/11, of course. Mike Curtin, he dedicates it to him. But the second person he dedicates it to is the aforementioned John O'Neill, who was an FBI guy, and he predicted that Osama bin Laden would do something terrible in the United States. He actually predicted it at a symposium, according to Bob Martin. And then in an ironic twist of fate, as Mr. Martin writes, O'Neill died at the World Trade Center when the buildings came down.
And more people know about George Floyd than about John O'Neill. And John O'Neill was a true American hero.
So you knew him personally, Congressman?
I know of him. I knew people who knew him. He was an interesting character. Guys who worked with him swore by him. He didn't always do it according to all the rules and regulations, but he got it done. A lot of the top brass in the FBI didn't like him, but he did the job. And then he had retired from the FBI, and that was only his third or fourth day on the job at the World Trade Center, heading up security.
Wow. John O'Neill. And again, 9/11 remembered 20 years later by Bob Martin. Also, it's a really compelling book. He talks about the only female NYPD officer who died on 9/11, Moira Smith.
Yeah. Her husband's a great guy, too. You see him down at Ground Zero on 9/11, just a tremendous person. And also there was a Port Authority police officer, Kathy Mazza, who was a neighbor of mine, and she was down on the first floor, and when the mob couldn't get out, she took a gun out and literally blew the windows open.
Wow.
And then she went back in to save somebody in a wheelchair, and that's when she was killed.
All right, well, listen, so check that book out, folks, 9/11 Remembered 20 Years Later by Bob Martin. Jack, thank you for the call.
Thanks, you, Jack.
Thanks for the effort.
Congressman, real quick.
Yeah.
72 years rooting for Notre Dame.
Go Irish.
All right.
Yeah.
Squeaked one out on Saturday.
Yeah, that was a tough one on Saturday. Boy, they almost lost it there. But anyway, thank you. Go Irish.
Go Irish. All right. Listen, on the Bernie and Sid Show, 1-800-848-9222, your chance to talk to Congressman Peter King and Bernie. Sid's off for the Jewish holiday. We'll be right back.
Beat Bernie. Sponsored by Fearless Boilers and Pavilion Tankless Water Heaters on 77 WABC. Real New York. 77 WABC.
Back here on the Bernie and Sid Show. Heard everywhere in the 77 WABC app with my good friend and the honorable former congressman from Long Island, Peter King. It was great to have you all morning. Peter will be back tomorrow. Sid's off for 2 days for the Jewish holiday. Happy New Year to my Jewish brethren.
Sid's going to have a lot easier time this week, but next week he has to atone for his sins. You may never see him again.
Yeah, it does take a while. Hey, well, listen, where do I want to go? Well, we'll talk about this tomorrow, about the Texas abortion law. That's an interesting case right there. But right now, the people who helped get the mom and the 3 kids out of Afghanistan, they were veterans. One of them was Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen. Now, I don't know if he's a veteran, but he's actually a former MMA fighter. Mark Wayne Mullen. He's been all over the place this morning. And he says that the State Department is trying to get some credit for evacuating these 4 people from Afghanistan over the border into the country of Pakistan.
Okay.
And that's a lie, that they did nothing. In fact, they got in the way, according to him and a couple of other guys.
Well, listen, I don't know the full story, but I know Mark Wayne Mullen enough to trust him. He's really a tough guy. He himself is not a veteran, but he has tremendous respect for the military, and he just felt he had to do something when nothing was being done by the Biden administration. So, no, Mark Wayne Mullen's a tough guy. He was a martial arts guy. I think his wife was into it also. Was he MMA? I get mixed up with MMA and UFC.
MMA is the sport. The UFC is the organization.
Okay, but he fought, and he had an excellent record. He's a tough guy, but he's a committed patriot, and I give him credit. Again, I'm not in Congress anymore. I don't know what happened on this, but I'm inclined to believe Mark Wayne. I'm not inclined. I definitely believe he's a top-rate guy.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, he is a Republican out of Oklahoma,
yep.
Congressman right now. Yes, indeed. Let us go to Chris from Nanuet, New York. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, good morning, gents. I got to tell you, Bernie, I was rooting for you to say Cortland instead of Cortland. Cornell when you were doing the colleges in upstate New York there.
You were rooting for me to give the wrong answer, in other words.
Yeah, exactly. Well, both you and I have done, we've talked about that before. Both you and I have done our share of time on 17, taking our children back and forth upstate New York there. But
absolutely.
I did want to ask the congressman if at all possible, right? Politics aside, if we could, if possibly, do you think that the President Joe Biden actually knows how bad he's being perceived, or is he surrounded by people who constantly tell him, you're doing great, everything's going fine? At the end of the day, does he really know how bad it's going, how bad we perceive his presidency?
I'm convinced he doesn't. Listen, all politicians, including myself, you try to make yourself feel better than you really are. But yeah, it comes down to it. You have to have a certain sense of reality. I think that Joe Biden has lost that sense of reality. He always had a grandiose opinion of himself, but now I think it's gone beyond what's normal. And no, I don't think he does, because he thinks he's smarter than everyone, and he thinks that he knows what you don't know. You're not smart enough to understand how great a job he's doing. So by the time he got around to saying this was a great success, he believed it, and that's the worst part.
And plus the media, he puts on the fake news media, and he believes what they're saying. They're running cover for him. I'm sorry. Some people saying, the media's turned a corner. They're turning a page on Joe Biden. No, they're not. They didn't play the audio of the Gold Star mom calling him a dementia-ridden piece of crap. If they were honest, they would do. They would have done it to President Trump. No, the media is running interference for him, just like they did all through the campaign, and he's counting on that. So he's probably not aware. Listen to some of the fake news defending him on Afghanistan.
Biden didn't get us into this situation, okay? Many presidents have a hand in what should be blamed if you want to look at Afghanistan as a failure. Certainly, the most recent iteration was Trump deciding to negotiate with the Taliban.
Republicans, along with Orange Julius Caesar, would love for us to all conveniently forget Trump's role in the withdrawal from Afghanistan and blame it all on Biden.
For an American president to finally be completely aligned with such an overwhelming majority of what the American people think about Afghanistan is probably a tremendous relief to the American people.
All right, so this is what he listens to. This is what he hears. Mm-hmm. Now, you heard, I think it was Fredo there, say that Trump made the agreement with the Taliban, and so it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's. So, first of all, Joe Biden says it was an enormous success, but it was Trump's fault. Well, fault? It's a success? What? It's totally incoherent. But here is a guy named Dean Pops, who's on Cats at Night, talking about the agreement that President Trump had with the Taliban, and by the way, after which he dropped the mother of all bombs on them after he made this agreement. But anyway, here is Dean Pops. He was the secretary to the Army, of the Army. He's also a former general. This is what he said about President Trump's agreement with the Taliban.
Biden could have kept or left anything he wanted. He was not bound by this. And in fact, the Taliban violated this agreement. Mm-hmm. So the notion that you now have the President of the United States saying, I'm bound up by an agreement that Trump left me. Yeah, Trump left you with an agreement. Okay? The enemy violated this in 100 different ways, and you're free to do whatever you want with it. So that the fact that you now are trying to go out and tell the American people, I'm bound by what he did, and that's why I left.
So that ends that. That was Cats at Night. He gets all the heavy hitters. Congressman King, will you come back tomorrow?
I will be back. If you have me back, I'll be back. And I tell you, you got a great support staff here. I see that.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
Very good people.
Really good
Justin
guys, yeah.
and
a great time. I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman King. We'll do it again tomorrow. Once again, Happy New Year to my Jewish brethren out there. And folks, yeah, it's the end of summer, but fear not. Fall is a beautiful time. It really is. And misery loves company. We're all in it together. Good to be healthy and alive.
You got it. God bless America.